He Qing's heavenly Tao manifestation only revealed the shadow of a divine phoenix on her right wing, while the rest remained that of a celestial crane. However, this phoenix wing did not seem out of place on her. Rather, it blended seamlessly with her essence, embodying a natural and harmonious integration that was flawless. This is because the crane race also carries the bloodline of the divine phoenix, and the divine phoenix bone can merge perfectly with all birds, enabling them to evolve towards a higher form. He Qing's use of the divine phoenix bone was evidently much more adept than her father He Yunfeng. Even when He Yunfeng fought against Ding Changhong, he hadn't utilized the divine phoenix bone to such an extent. The moment the divine crane form, fused with the right wing of the phoenix, manifested, its noble aura immediately overshadowed the presence of the peacock great bright king. Tang Yingxin observed He Qing's transformation with the divine phoenix bone, becoming incredibly powerful, and his expression grew even darker. Even though He Qing had merged with the divine phoenix bone, she hadn't fully unleashed its power. If only his flying bird Dao technique were still usable, relying on the 5-colored divine feathers of the peacock great bright king, he could easily defeat He Qing. However, the flying bird Dao art failed. At this moment, He Qing was not at all inferior to him. Swish! The massive divine crane in the air was already waving its phoenix divine feathers, rapidly striking down towards Tang Yingxin. The phoenix divine feathers stirred up a brilliant wave of void, making all the spiritual power on the battle stage frigid and deadly. Every corner was shrouded under the shadow of the divine phoenix, its song resonating with tremendous pressure, rolling towards Tang Yingxin. Tang Yingxin's 5-colored divine feathers also burst forth with a dazzling radiance. The peacock form rose high and bright, constantly trembling in the void, and instantly, 5 formidable divine lights shot from the peacock to meet the phoenix divine feathers. Boom! 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 2 potent and regal divine manifestations clashed violently in the air, unleashing earth-shaking roars. The terrifying aura continuously wove across the battle stage. Without the proper protections, even those at the early immortal realm caught in it would directly perish. This is a genius from the Earth ranking. People gathered below the stage exclaimed in admiration, some praising, some envying, others with furrowed brows. Cultivators whose power was below the immortal realm held great reverence for such strong geniuses. Attacks of this intensity were rarely seen in a lifetime, making the spectacle particularly exciting. Those ranked below He Qing on the Earth ranking now understood the gap between themselves and these two, feeling especially burdened, knowing they must devote more time to cultivation to surpass them. This area was completely covered in dazzling brilliance, preventing anyone from discerning what lay within. Yet 2 opposing auras continued to rage chaotically. But just as everyone watched eagerly, all the lights on the stage suddenly seemed to be drawn in, sweeping across in an arc like flowing water, converging towards the sky. Soon, everyone noticed, at the center of the light, a crane silhouette, ethereal and towering. He Qing. At this moment, He Qing appeared to be the focal point of the world, enveloped in splendid light. It was a magnificent spectacle, as if all divine light was involuntarily drawn to, converging on He Qing. Phoenix inhaling the rainbow. Below, Tang Yingxin was already filled with terror. His earlier peacock manifestation displayed vibrant colors, but before He Qing, all the colors on his heavenly Tao manifestation seemed to peel away, flowing towards He Qing. Stripped of its colors, it was not transformed into a white peacock, as white is a color too, all of it absorbed, leaving the peacock manifestation transparent and withered, as if it might wither away in the next instant. Yet He Qing showed no mercy. She abruptly opened her eyes, filled with infinite brilliance, as if incorporating the universe. Swish! She vigorously flapped her wings, and the colorful phoenix wings descended with a roar. In an instant, the void was illuminated by 10,000 rays of colorful light. Even if they were transported thousands of miles away upon stepping onto the stage, this light still brightened every corner of the Tao Palace, illuminating everything. Boom! 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 The power of Phoenix inhaling the rainbow instantly shattered Tang Yingxin's peacock manifestation, rendering it utterly fragile. And Tang Ingsen was blown away in an instant. Thud! Tang Ingsen was like a ragged doll, reverted to his original form, drawn back from the distant void directly onto the battle stage, landing heavily below, his face pale, having suffered severe injuries. The outcome was decided. In an instant, the entire scene erupted in excitement, and everyone gazed upwards with admiration at the noble figure in the sky. He Qing maintained her 188th ranking on the Earth ranking. Incredible! The crane race has someone to carry on their legacy. Indeed, He Qing is truly a talented individual of the younger generation. Perhaps her strength isn't limited to just the 188th rank. Maybe she can challenge others in the rankings in the future and achieve a higher rank. Everyone lavished praise upon He Qing, as powerful geniuses are always deserving of respect. By the way, is Tang Ingsen still alive? Nonsense. The battle stage of the Dao Palace is just a normal contest. No one will die. The formation will save his life. This guy's strength indeed seems suspect. I thought his defeat by Chu Shiyang was due to Chu Shiyang's prowess, but he couldn't even defeat the 188th ranked He Qing. Turns out he made the list by dubious means. This probably took 100 yards of soil, huh? Tiske. Having soil to burn. The failure of Tang Ingsen to rise in the rankings instantly made him the laughingstock of everyone. He fell from the 150th place, thinking he could seize the 188th rank, but ended up being utterly defeated. The colorful light faded, and He Qing returned to human form, walking down from the battle platform. Everyone watched her, making way for her with deep respect. He Qing didn't even glance at Tang Ingsen, who lay lifeless on the ground. Instead, she immediately searched the crowd for Xiang Beifei's figure. This little rascal, is he convinced now? Time to fulfill that promise. Xiang Beifei was sitting there, yawning out of boredom when suddenly a hostile aura locked onto him. He found He Qing had come over, grabbed his arm, and with a twist, led him out of the crowd, returning to a pavilion prepared for her at the Dao Palace. Take it easy, why so rough? Xiang Beifei shook his hand. Humph! He Qing let go of Xiang Beifei's arm, her cold gaze appearing aggressive. What should you say now? She asked. Congratulations on maintaining your Earth ranking. And that phoenix's colorful wings look nice. You wield the divine phoenix bone better than your dad. And your crane race hasn't lost hope. You'll still have breath soil earnings in the future. And the weather's nice today. And He Qing was almost grinding her teeth. She stared at this irritating guy, daring to play dumb with her. Xiang Beifei absent-mindedly said, That's it. That's it? How dare you say that's it to me? He Qing held the divine phoenix bone, which glowed threateningly. You better remember what you're supposed to say to me within 10 breaths, or else. Buzz. The strong aura of the divine phoenix bone flickered. Oh, this colorful chicken bone doesn't work on me. I'm not part of the bird race. Xiang Beifei casually waved his hand. Colorful chicken bone? He Qing was nearly bursting with anger. Colorful chicken bone? This little rascal not only forgot what he just said, but now he also called the divine phoenix bone a colorful chicken bone? She felt a knot in her chest, almost choking her. You little punk, aren't you asking for a beating? You just said, if I won, how would you address me? You said you wouldn't call me something. What was it? He Qing tried hard to suppress her temper. Oh, that old granny. Then what should you call me? Shao Qing. Get lost. He Qing almost didn't slap him. Only my father or elders can call me Shao Qing. You are not allowed to say that directly. Okay, Shao Qing. Let's go shopping at the big stores next. He Qing felt like her lungs were about to explode. How can there be such a little rascal? Xiang Beifei nonchalantly shrugged his shoulders. Actually, I never thought 500 years was that old. After all, we have some beautiful mythical stories there. Like the 1,000-year-old white snake demon Ajun and the 20-something scholar Asian falling in love, but being suppressed by a monk Ahai with a golden washbasin under a pagoda, so 500 years isn't a big deal. Xiang Beifei said. 3 black lines appeared on He Qing's forehead, coldly saying, "You already knew 500 years isn't considered old. So why did you call me an old granny?" "Because I was just too full to think straight." He Qing glared furiously at Xiang Beifei, her eyes blazing with fire. Originally she wanted to ask Xiang Beifei, "Are you too full to think straight?" But he preemptively stole her line. Speak her word. Make her speechless. The most annoying thing is, this guy talks as if he's justified after he's eaten his fill. All right, aren't you going to rest? Activating the power of the colorful chicken bone probably drained your spiritual power. Do you still have the energy to get angry with me? Xiang Beifei asked. I always have the energy to deal with you. He Qing snorted lightly. But Xiang Beifei was right. Defeating Tang Yingxin was not as easy as it seemed. Outsiders thought she won effortlessly, but in reality, she expended a lot of effort. After all, the divine phoenix bone is an ancient and powerful existence. And even though He Qing possesses its bloodline, she cannot fully harness its potential. Can I see your colorful chicken phoenix bone? What's there to see? Haven't you seen it before? Let me have a look. He Qing glared at Xiang Beifei. This was originally a sacred object of their crane race. How could it be given away so easily? But this guy, though a bit annoying, could still be trusted. So she handed the divine phoenix bone to Xiang Beifei. The divine phoenix bone had already lost its luster, becoming indistinguishable from an ordinary bone, essentially a genuine chicken bone. Xiang Beifei held the divine phoenix bone, gently clasped it, and infused it with his spiritual power. Seeing Xiang Beifei about to attempt using the divine phoenix bone, He Qing reminded, only our bird Dao can use spiritual power to activate the divine phoenix bone. Even if other races obtain it, it's useless. You'd better save your energy. No matter how much spiritual power you infuse, it won't work. But just as she finished speaking, the divine phoenix bone in Xiang Beifei's hand suddenly emitted a bright light, brightly illuminating the entire room. How is that possible? Aren't you from the human race? He Qing looked at the divine phoenix bone in Xiang Beifei's hand in shock. Could it work even in his hands? Of course I'm from the human race. Then how can you activate the colorful phoenix chicken bone? Xiang Beifei raised an eyebrow. Ah, no, it's the divine phoenix bone, not colorful chicken. Damn, you've twisted my words, He Qing said angrily. For some reason, ever since she met Xiang Beifei, she felt like she was easily set off. Because I'm from the human race, Xiang Beifei said calmly. How can that be? How can the human race? What do you think? The divine phoenix bone in Xiang Beifei's hand sparkled with brilliant colors, extremely dazzling, able to unleash a power even greater than He Qing's. She even had the illusion that Xiang Beifei was part of the bird Dao race, possibly an exceptional bird. Among the birds, the phoenix is considered a divine bird, equal to the vermilion bird, both top-tier bird Dao kings. If we were to rank the flying bird Dao, then the phoenix and vermilion bird are among the top tier, with the peacock great bright king, golden-winged roc, azure phoenix, 9 phoenixes, and golden crow in the second tier. Following these would be eagle Dao and crane Dao, the relatively weaker birds belonging to the third tier. But the aura and power unleashed by the divine phoenix bone in Xiang Beifei's hand far exceeded He Qing's. It must be the power of a second-tier bloodline in the divine bird Dao. Yet he's from the human race, without phoenix bloodline. Now you understand why we're inherently called humans, right? Xiang Beifei once again grasped the divine phoenix bone in his hand. Buzz! The crisp and resonant phoenix cry echoed in his hand, with the divine light of the phoenix in his grasp. For a moment, He Qing even thought she saw the true phoenix, mistaking Xiang Beifei for the phoenix. Humans? Can humans really do this? He Qing was extremely shocked. She simply couldn't understand what special ability the human race had since she had never interacted with them before, and Xiang Beifei was the first human she knew. Xiang Beifei fiddled with the divine phoenix bone and said, "A phoenix cannot be killed. It will be reborn every 100,000 years. And this divine phoenix bone must have been left behind during its rebirth, containing a drop of phoenix essence blood. Won't you try to refine it?" Phoenix essence blood? He Qing was taken aback. She had never considered it. You didn't know? Xiang Beifei asked in confusion. No one in our crane race knew. He Qing shook her head. Back then, after the ancestors of the crane race found the divine phoenix bone in some secret location at the Edge Corner airspace, all the top experts of the crane race tried to activate its full power. But no one could unleash more than a small portion. No one knew how to handle the divine phoenix bone. Want my help? A white flame rose in Xiang Beifei's hand. He Qing still seemed very surprised. She was stunned by the phoenix power unleashed by Xiang Beifei and took a long time to react, murmuring as she asked, "How do you know there is a drop of phoenix blood essence inside?" Perception. Perception. This is an advantage of our human race. Xiang Beifei gave a meaningful smile. In fact, he learned about this divine phoenix bone through Learn by Analogy and Return to the Original State. At the realm of eternal life, his abilities in Learn by Analogy and Return to the Original State had advanced further. By using Return to the Original State and then applying the Yin and Yang source energy for Learn by Analogy, he could deduce the original form of this divine phoenix bone without restoring it. But naturally, Xiang Beifei would not reveal the truth. He Qing was even more perplexed. The human race, what kind of race is this? They can actually unleash the divine phoenix bone, something that even she, a true descendant of the phoenix, couldn't do. What other abilities does this race have? He Qing carefully recalled the information about the human race, but found very little information about them in the Edge Corner airspace. The Dao Palace never mentioned them, only saying that this race was inherently aggressive, committed all sorts of evil, and had to be killed on sight, that's all. As for whether there had been powerful experts among the human race in the past or if they had lived in the Edge Corner airspace, it was completely unknown, as if that part of history had been forcibly erased. She looked at Xiang Beifei again. He was the only human she had seen in her life. Except for being annoyingly talkative, this guy did not look like a dangerous character as described by the Dao Palace. Xiang Beifei weighed the divine phoenix bone and then said, "I can refine the divine phoenix bone into phoenix blood essence, and you can absorb it, which might cause a qualitative change in the crane power you cultivate. You might even have a chance to activate the bloodline of your inherent phoenix Dao embryo." Activate the bloodline of the phoenix Dao embryo. He Qing gasped. She knew that everyone who cultivated the bird Dao carried phoenix bloodlines within because bird Dao practitioners are all descendants of the phoenix, diverged from the phoenix. But practically speaking, over the long ancient years, many bird Dao practitioners have nearly zero phoenix bloodlines, making it impossible to awaken. Even she could barely manage to unleash some abilities thanks to the divine phoenix bone. If she could awaken the phoenix bloodline, it would mean she would transform from a crane to the divine phoenix. The changes in her cultivated crane Dao would be earth-shattering. Calling it a meteoric rise wouldn't be an exaggeration. This was a rare opportunity that comes once in 1,000 years. He Qing couldn't help but be tempted. But after a moment, she took a deep breath and shook her head, saying, "No, this piece of divine phoenix bone is only lent to me by the clan. Whoever is the clan leader will own this piece of divine phoenix bone. It is used to ensure the clan leader has self-preservation ability. I cannot hog it for myself." The clan leader for the past few hundred years was He Yunfang. The divine phoenix bone was originally in his custody but was temporarily given to her today as she came to guard the ranking list. "But aren't you the most talented one in your crane clan?" "Even so, I cannot make this decision myself because the divine phoenix bone is needed to protect every clan leader." He Qing still shook her head. Xiang Beifei pouted. "All right then." He returned the divine phoenix bone to He Qing. This was something that belonged to the Crane clan, and he had no reason to force it. He Qing took the divine phoenix bone and couldn't help but size up Xiang Beifei again, then put the bone away. The battle between He Qing and Tang Yingxin had ended, but it had spread throughout the entire Divine Feather City. Many people were discussing this battle, with the duel between two mid-eternal life masters being unforgettable. Now that He Qing successfully guarded the ranking and also displayed her true strength, the powerful phoenix power put pressure on many who wanted to challenge the ranking list. Today, not only had Tang Yingxin come, but many Earth-ranking geniuses ranked after He Qing also arrived. Besides, several others with cultivation at mid-eternal life who had not yet made the ranking list wanted to try their luck. Unfortunately, He Qing's divine phoenix bone made these people all recoil in fear. At this moment, He Qing was resting, and after one match, others who wanted to challenge the ranking list would first need to submit an application to the Tao Palace, following which He Qing would decide the date of the match. This was to prevent people from taking advantage of the situation. In a match between equal strengths, both sides must give their all. If people queued up shortly after and challenged the ranking, the individual guarding the ranking would have no energy to handle the next one, making it an unfair victory, thus making the Earth ranking meaningless. However, 3 days passed and no one applied to challenge the ranking. Guarding the ranking only required 3 days. The stipulated time had passed. He Qing no longer needed to worry about it. At least within 10 years, she would maintain this ranking and could collect 13 zhang of land again after 10 years. This was already the best result for He Qing and her Crane clan. Xiao Qing, I asked Steward Qian, the largest trading shop here is called Divine Feather Commercial Tower. I want to check it out, are you going? Call me sister. Xiao Qing, if you don't want to go, I will go alone. Are you looking for death? Without my company, your annoyingly talkative nature will expose your human race identity sooner or later, and then you'll be caught and drowned in a pig cage. He Qing stood up angrily and glared at Xiang Beifei. However, she still led the way. This guy is rash. Who knows if he might cause trouble on his own? It's better to follow him. The Divine Feather Commercial Tower was on the other side of Divine Feather City. They left the Tao Palace directly and headed toward the street below. Passing through the densely packed overpass-style streets, they soon stopped at another main street and arrived at the Divine Feather Commercial Tower. Divine Feather Commercial Tower is the biggest trading place in Divine Feather City, where you can trade a variety of items, far more legitimately than those roadside stalls selling teeth, bones, and ancestors' remains. When trading here, the commercial tower has professional Tao practitioners to inspect the quality of goods, strictly ensuring that counterfeit and shoddy items do not enter the market. There is just a bit more in handling fees, but you can buy with confidence and use comfortably, without worrying about buying shed snakeskins from the Immortal Realm Serpent Tao practitioners' roadside stalls and then discovering its fake chi controlling stage snakeskin once you get home, which would leave you helpless. If you buy counterfeit goods at Divine Feather Commercial Tower, there is compensation because they are authenticated, and even if the seller can't be found afterward, compensation can still be made. This is why many people are willing to come here for transactions. The Divine Feather Commercial Tower is built with 9 floors. Each floor is extremely large and clearly divided. For example, the first floor trades goods of the chi controlling level, the second floor trades goods of the meridian opening level, and so on. The 6th floor is where items of the immortal realm are sold. Go to the 6th floor. Xiang Beifei, after figuring out the layout of the Divine Feather Commercial Tower, walked to the 6th floor without hesitation. What he needs now is spiritual power crystals from the early immortal stage, to gather enough and then go to unlock Subaru's seal. Subaru always requires 7 spiritual power crystals from the early immortal stage. Currently, he has only obtained 3, which he got from the Meatwing monster last time after killing 3 early immortal stage masters and 1 mid-stage immortal realm eternal night demon king. He hopes to buy 4 spiritual power crystals if possible. Immortal realm items are very expensive, usually starting from several dozen acres of land, and you don't have enough money on hand. He Qing knew Xiang Beifei just arrived at the edge corner airspace with only 2 acres of land. Seeing Xiang Beifei looking enthusiastic, she splashed cold water on him. It's okay. It's also good to broaden my horizons. Xiang Beifei wasn't very concerned and stepped onto the 6th floor staircase. At the entrance to the 6th floor staircase, a middle-aged heavenly connection cultivator was sitting there guarding, and when he saw Xiang Beifei, he frowned slightly. This middle-aged man was from the 3-armed race, named Peng Nian, specifically responsible for reception affairs on the 6th floor. Even a skilled heavenly connection master can only guard the gate here, indicating the importance of the 6th floor. Xiang Beifei's appearance bore the characteristics of the crane race, clearly not reaching the heavenly connection stage. So Peng Yen stretched out a hand to block him, saying, "Friends of the Heavenly Connection stage, please don't enter on your own. You must be accompanied by an elder of the immortal realm." "There's such a rule?" Xiang Beifei paused, somewhat puzzled. "Because you people from the Heavenly Connection stage lack insight, it's easy to be deceived when going up to deal with things in the immortal realm." He Qing finally seized this opportunity to mock Xiang Beifei fiercely. She then realized Peng Yen was also from the Heavenly Connection stage, and quickly said to Peng Yen, "Sorry, I wasn't referring to you. Please don't take it to heart." Seeing it was He Qing, Peng Yen promptly stood up, not daring to blame anything. The famous He Qing has been heavily talked about in Divine Feather City these past days, and a person like him responsible for guarding the big commercial tower must know what she looks like immediately, or he would not recognize the important ones and might inadvertently offend her at the Dragon King Temple, which he couldn't afford. Peng Yen politely said, "It's no bother. Miss He Qing's words indeed make sense. Before the adults of the immortal realm, going up alone for you in the Heavenly Connection stage would indeed be disadvantaged. It is an honor for our commercial tower to have Miss He Qing's presence. Upstairs, please." He Qing pushed Xiang Beifei aside and walked up by herself. Peng Yen took a look at Xiang Beifei and hesitantly asked, "Miss He Qing, is this person with you?" He Qing stopped, turned to look down at Xiang Beifei, and smiled slightly. "Whether he's with me depends on what he calls me." Xiang Beifei immediately said, "She is my old GR. If you dare to say that, don't even think about coming up." He Qing threatened. "You should know. I can still find someone to go up with, right?" Xiang Beifei plucked a tuft of hair from his ear, biting on it. "You!" He Qing was infuriated. Because Xiang Beifei isn't a Heavenly Connection stage, but an Immortal Realm stage, he can completely use his true identity, making this threat useless to Xiang Beifei. He Qing, feeling frustrated, glared at Xiang Beifei again and said to Peng Yen, "He's with me." Only then did Xiang Beifei calmly walk upstairs. Compared to the thousands of traders on the lower floors, the 6th floor had significantly fewer people, probably less than 100, giving it a quieter atmosphere with no one shouting. Everyone here was a master of the immortal realm. They valued their dignity, so basically no one shouted and simply sat there with their eyes closed, meditating. The treasures sold here naturally also belonged to the immortal realm. Buyers and sellers were of similar strength and basically all knowledgeable about the goods. Xiang Beifei looked around, searching for suitable items. The stall closest to him displayed a tricolored stone, within which multitudes of red, hot auras surged, occasionally igniting into flames. The flames had 3 colors: red, yellow, and green, and a sign labeled it as a triflame stone. The triflame stone was priced at 17 units of soil. Xiang Beifei used his perception to probe the stone. The flames from this stone were actually not very strong, lying somewhere between the Heavenly Connection and Immortal Realm, merely flashy and not meeting Xiang Beifei's requirements. He continued forward and saw a skeleton. The whole body of the skeleton was golden, shining brilliantly, looking very mysterious. Golden sacred bone, from a certain ancient secret realm. Initial appraisal suggests it belongs to a fallen mighty being from the Inquiry Dao realm. Great potential for excavation, priced at 26 units of soil. Xiang Beifei closely examined the golden sacred bone, swiftly deducing in his mind the true nature of this golden sacred bone. In reality, this thing wasn't skeletal remains from the Inquiry Dao realm, but from a master of the Heavenly Connection. However, the skeleton was coated with a layer of powerful and strange golden force. It was this force that originated from a master of the Inquiry Dao realm, meaning this unfortunate person was bombarded by an Inquiry Dao realm master, leaving only a golden skeleton with residual Inquiry Dao power. The things here don't seem that remarkable. Even the official appraisal by the commercial tower is lacking. Their appraisal standards need improvement. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but mutter. Although he had countless breath soil, he wasn't willing to squander it recklessly. But soon he discovered a blue ice crystal, only fist-sized, with sharp red ice edges jutting from the center. Snow essence fruit, 30,000 years old from the peak of the northern mountain, priced at 46 units of soil. Xiang Beifei's eyes lit up. The spiritual power contained within this snow essence fruit was extremely abundant, likely nurtured in a place teeming with spiritual energy, absorbing cold aura, capable of being refined into immortal realm spiritual power crystals. A truly genuine treasure. 46 units of soil wasn't too expensive, worth considering for purchase. Just as Xiang Beifei was preparing to bargain, a commotion suddenly broke out ahead, seemingly stirred by something causing a stir. Xiang Beifei looked up and saw a crowd gathering, with many exclamations of amazement resounding continuously. My heavens! Where did this stone come from? Could it have been found on the lost divine island? Such powerful Tao intention. Just by studying the strokes, I was almost pulled in. How much soil for this stone? I'll take it. Fellow Taoist, how much breath soil are you willing to offer for this Tao stone? At the stall in front, many people were inquiring about prices, as if someone was preparing to sell a rare treasure, attracting many Taoists to gather and observe. Many faces were filled with disbelief. What's happening? Xiang Beifei asked in confusion. I'll go take a look. He Qing also slightly frowned, walking over there, squeezing through the crowd to examine the so-called treasure with everyone else. He then paused, showing a look of surprise, seemingly drawn in as well. Could it really be something good again? Xiang Beifei's eyes brightened. If it was something of the immortal realm, he had to join in and buy it for refining. He squeezed through the crowd, arriving at the stall, eagerly fixing his gaze on the stall, then also paused. A stone was placed on the table in front, about 2 inches long, appearing very ordinary, with a material considered quite coarse. However, a large, lively character written on the stone elevated its value and captivated everyone. Tao. The word Tao was strikingly written on the stone. This Tao character was vigorous and forceful, carved deep into the wood. Yet it also appeared elegant and graceful, lively and ethereal. At first glance, it seemed to be just a word carved on a stone. But upon careful contemplation, one would find this Tao character seemed to flow, maintaining a harmonious state of balance. The Tao is natural, formless, shapeless, without beginning or end. Beside this Tao character, there was also a hoof print, a dog paw mark, and a small handprint. When Xiang Beifei saw this stone, he immediately widened his eyes. How did this thing show up here? Woof! Xiaohe, sitting on Xiang Beifei's shoulder, looked surprised as he tugged at Xiang Beifei's ear, asking if he was seeing things. Yu Meng and Era also looked wide-eyed, glancing at each other. This Tao stone was exactly the stone Xiaohe had left behind to attract treasure seekers back in the great desolate realm, when they had nothing better to do and decided to create a mysterious legacy for people to unravel. Back then, for the design of this land of inheritance, Xiaohe, Era, and Yu Meng exerted quite an effort, personally involved in creating various formations. Era even concocted the unsightly Kylan drunk to fool people, only to have it devoured by the ghost mustache of remnant visage. However, the most important thing in the land of inheritance was actually this Tao stone left behind by Xiang Beifei, because this Tao stone contained traces of the Tao essence he comprehended. Originally, it was left for the E-Trib cultivators in the great desolate realm as a fortuitous opportunity, yet unexpectedly this Tao stone appeared here. Xiang Beifei looked up at the person showcasing this Tao stone, an elder with a rosy complexion, wearing a pristine moon-white robe, exuding an extraordinary presence, with a balanced and stable aura, demanding respect. Tao Executor, Dongfang Xian, Tao Embryo, Wealth Tao, Tao Practice, Mid-Stage Immortal Realm, Tao Embryo Description. All business transactions can provide Tao Practice. Current Tao value, 177,568,8781. This Dongfang Xian's robe bears the emblem of Divine Feather Commercial Tower, indicating he is a respected elder of the tower, whose true form is a cultivator from the Golden Toad race. The Golden Toad race is rather unique, as they cultivate not the Toad Tao but the Wealth Tao. He relies on assisting others in transactions to comprehend his heavenly Tao power. Taoist Dongfang, how is your tower planning to sell this Tao stone? Many people in the immortal realm were inquiring. Dongfang Xian spoke loudly. To be honest, this Tao stone was obtained by a mysterious Taoist in a secret realm and entrusted to our tower for trading. To protect privacy, the specific circumstances cannot be disclosed. Suffice to say, the seller's family faced a void tide resulting in the collapse of territory, urgently needing breath soil to fill the gaps. Hence the sale of this Tao stone, otherwise it would not be easily sold. He carefully extended his hand, took the Tao stone in hand, displaying it fully to everyone. His expression extremely solemn, clearly treating this Tao stone as a rare treasure. Everyone should be aware of the mystique of this Tao stone. A Tao character, free and natural, imbued with the heavenly Tao power of the original owner. According to the collective evaluation by several elders of our Divine Feather commercial tower, the cultivation level to write such Tao character is at least at the Ascension realm. Ascension realm. This statement stirred the entire venue. Immortal, Inquiry Tao, Ascension, Ancestral Tao. Almost everyone here are Tao executors of the immortal realm. Inquiry Tao is rare for them, not to mention the Ascension realm. Many people's eyes became fervent. Dongfang Xian continued to slowly rotate the Tao stone in the air, explaining further. This Tao stone should be a character casually written by an Ascension realm elder, without containing boundless spiritual power, nor storing Ascension realm power. But what this elder left behind was his comprehension of the Tao. Normal treasures contain strong spiritual power, which can be used to enhance one's cultivation, but clearly this Tao stone is special. Without spiritual power, hence buying it cannot be used for combat, making it unable to be sold at an Ascension realm price. However, it can assist you in Tao comprehension and cultivation, especially for those in the immortal realm with continuous contemplation. It offers great help and even provides an opportunity for those often unable to advance to enhance their cultivation. The hearts of every Tao executor in the immortal realm present burned with passion. Many, despite stepping into the immortal realm, spend their lives only in the early stage, with no further understanding of the Tao. However, this Tao stone, with its powerful Tao essence, is a great opportunity for them. Dongfang Xian explained the specifics to everyone, then pointed at the dog paw print, hoof print, and the small handprint and continued, as for these three marks, no Tao essence has been identified within, but the marks can harmonize with the Tao character, achieving a rounded and fulfilling state, greatly enhancing the mood of this Tao character. 1 creates 2, 2 creates 3, 3 creates all things. This is the meaning represented by the three marks. As Dongfang Xian finished speaking, the people around suddenly realized. So that's it. I wondered why such precious stone full of Tao essence had three seemingly useless small marks. It turns out my understanding was narrow. This is Tao creates 3. The elder capable of writing such Tao characters. How could he casually leave 3 marks? These 3 marks surely are extraordinary. Indeed, the Tao insights comprehended by the Ascension Realm seniors far exceed ours. Given our current cultivation level, it's simply impossible for us to fully understand it right now. Everyone nodded in agreement, affirming Dongfang Xian's speculation and believing that these 3 imprints held deeper meanings. But their level was too low to comprehend them at the moment. However, on the other side, Xiaohe Era and Yumong were completely dumbfounded. 3 hoof prints representing the Tao giving birth to 3? No, those 3 imprints were just signatures left by the 3 of them out of boredom. How did it become the Tao giving birth to 3? Xiang Beifei patted his forehead, caught between laughter and tears. These immortal realm experts seemed to have an overly rich imagination. As someone with a Taoist body, his understanding of the Tao far surpassed everyone present, naturally. But the most this stone had was the word Tao. The other 3 claw prints were really just superfluous. Era couldn't help but burst into laughter, while Xiaohe's eyes sparkled, pondering whether to birth another Tao, with Yumong eagerly participating in the discussion, expressing the intent to create more 3s. Many still focused intensely on the word Tao, unwilling to divert their attention. Dongfang Xian smiled slightly, covering it with a piece of silk, pulling everyone away from their forced contemplation of Tao insights. This Tao stone will be displayed in an auction format. Today, we're just offering everyone a glimpse, and the formal auction will be held tomorrow. Everyone is welcome to visit the auction on the 7th floor then. The starting price is set at 50 square feet of soil, so you can prepare in advance. Dongfang Xian skillfully introduced the treasure to everyone and provided the auction price, hinting that they should return home and prepare by gathering soil. Many people were still engrossed in the Tao word, but those quick-witted quickly left, rushing back to discuss soil preparations. Such impressive Tao insights! He Qing couldn't help but exclaim quietly. She had been so immersed in the Tao character that she couldn't extricate herself until Dongfang Xian put away the Tao stone, bringing her back to her senses. But recalling that Tao character still left her in awe. It's just a single word. They're exaggerating it. Xiang Beifei murmured. Tao giving birth to 3 was pure nonsense. No, I don't think that's the case. This Tao character has an indescribable affinity. I merely looked at it for a few breaths, yet I seem to have gained a deeper understanding of the crane Tao I practice. I don't know which senior wrote this Tao character, but I'm certain that person is undoubtedly broad-minded. He Qing was filled with reverence. Oh? You can tell someone is broad-minded just from this. Xiang Beifei found it interesting, patting his clothes, and couldn't help straightening his posture. Of course. Look at this Tao character, carefree and unrestrained. Every stroke flows seamlessly, like clouds and flowing water. Only a broad-minded senior could write such a meaningful Tao character, inspiring endless thoughts. The writer's comprehension of the Tao character has reached an absolute pinnacle. He Qing did not hold back her praise for the owner of this Tao stone. Ah, now you're making me a bit embarrassed, Xiang Beifei said. I'm praising the senior who wrote this Tao character. What are you embarrassed about? He Qing scrunched her mouth and gave Xiang Beifei a sidelong glance. Xiang Beifei, this darn thing was written by me. Okay. He patted his forehead, shaking his head. People are not what they used to be, alas. All right. Don't you have any thoughts when looking at this Tao character? He Qing asked. Of course I have thoughts, a whole bunch, though they might be different from yours. Having different thoughts is naturally the case. Everyone comprehends the Tao differently, as people cultivate different heavenly Tao laws. You, being from the immortal realm, surely understand this. It's just that. He Qing paused, her face brimming with immense respect. It's just that the senior who wrote this Tao character has elevated their Tao to a realm unattainable by us. This is ascension. If only we could meet this senior and receive their guidance, that would be wonderful. Xiang Beifei blinked innocently. The senior you're talking about is standing right in front of you. Got it, but he couldn't be bothered to reveal the truth. Since writing this Tao character could garner such admiration, he should deliberate on it. After all, it meant he wouldn't have to spend his breath soil to buy things. He can sell words. However many Taos he writes, that's how many Taos there are. However many Tao stones he wants, that's how many Tao stones there are. Wholesale. Xiang Beifei felt that his way of making money was becoming more and more Tao-oriented. But speaking of which, how did this word Tao from the Great Desolate Realm appear here? He looked again at Dongfang Xian's system interface to see his recent actions. Each Taoist in the Edge Corner airspace had already mastered their own heavenly Tao, but they didn't have specific system interfaces. These were all simulated by Xiang Beifei using Yin and Yang primordial energy. Xiang Beifei cultivated the 3,000 great Taos, allowing him to forcefully present each person's Tao embryo in a system format and deduce their recent activities from their Tao embryo. The difference from the system of Zhuzhou was that these Taoists had no corresponding system tasks or system rewards. Everything relied on comprehension and powerful treasures. They all understood what Tao they were cultivating. In this realm, the most important thing was to comprehend the Tao. However, this did not prevent Xiang Beifei from directly intervening in the other party's Tao embryo, as he could still silently participate in the other party's heavenly Tao and then control their Tao. Very soon, Xiang Beifei saw some hints from Dongfang Xian's Wealth Tao embryo. The spirit-controlling tiger elder of the tiger race has entrusted you to auction the Dao Stone, Dao value plus 15. Spirit-controlling tiger, elder of the tiger race? Xiang Beifei pondered. He remembered that back in the Great Desolate Realm, people from the tiger head race had also come to his land of inheritance to explore. This Dao Stone appeared here. Could it be that the people of the tiger head race ended up acquiring it? People on this side of the edge corner airspace had no way to directly reach the Great Desolate Realm, or rather, they needed a Dao sheath to do so. It seemed that the spirit-controlling tiger acquired this Dao Stone through the body of someone from the tiger head race. Yi Qing snapped back to reality, furrowing his brow. No, I must go back and discuss with my father. Discuss what? Xiang Beifei asked. This Dao Stone is very useful to us. If we can secure it at the auction, it can be observed and cultivated by all our immortal realm elders of the crane race. Yi Qing's expression was quite serious. No need to discuss, I agree. At this moment, He Yunfang's voice suddenly came from behind. Yi Qing turned around and found He Yunfang standing right there. Father, when did you get here? Yi Qing was quite surprised. Xiang Beifei yawned. He came a long time ago. He arrived on the day you had the trial. Really? Yi Qing blinked in confusion. How come I didn't notice? Anyone can guess he would come. How could a father not be here when his daughter is facing such an important matter? Xiang Beifei said, curling his lips. Yi Qing was silent for a moment and said, Father, didn't I tell you to stay home and recover well? No need to come? He Yunfang, feeling a bit awkward, said, I just came over casually to take a look. The recovery can wait. Yi Qing believed he had the strength to maintain his ranking, so he didn't want his injured father to come along. But He Yunfang, as a father, couldn't possibly rest easy at such an important moment for his daughter. Thus, after Yi Qing and Xiang Beifei left the Crane Dao courtyard, he also disguised himself and secretly followed. For the past 2 days, he had been watching that trial and only relaxed after the victory. Earlier, he just followed casually to have a look and accidentally discovered a precious Dao stone. Speaking of which, young Master Xiang, did you notice me a long time ago? Yi Yunfang asked. Your disguise skills aren't very advanced. Xiang Beifei shrugged, sighing again. How could other people's parents care so much about their children, while his so-called biological parents never showed up? Yi Yunfang gave a dry chuckle, while Yi Qing furrowed his brow and looked at Xiang Beifei with surprise. This guy's perception seemed rather unique indeed. Yi Yunfang quickly brought the topic back, saying seriously, the conception of this Dao stone is very important. I merely glanced at it just now and was drawn in. I even felt a sense of enlightenment with my years of comprehended Dao intentions, but that insight was interrupted. If I could meditate on it for a while, it would surely benefit me greatly. Perhaps I might have a chance to step into the mid-immortal stage by comprehending this Dao stone. He Yunfang thousands of years ago had already entered the early stage of the immortal realm, but after reaching the early stage, he had stagnated for too long, to the extent that even his daughter's cultivation had surpassed his own. The notion of the blue dye surpassing the blue is naturally a good thing, but many times he also hoped that he could break through that barrier, elevate his cultivation to greater heights, supporting his race, rather than always relying on his daughter to compete fiercely for those 13 zhang of land. Today, upon seeing that Dao stone, he felt the barrier in his Dao embryo that had obstructed him for years loosened slightly. The mystical Dao embryos on the Dao stone deepened his comprehension of the Dao significantly. The sensation was akin to a divine enlightenment, bestowing him profound insight, remarkably exquisite. Unfortunately, time was limited, and he could not comprehend more. The predecessor who inscribed this Dao character must have had an incredibly deep understanding of the Dao. Shao Qing, I agree with your assessment. This senior surely was a person of great openness, for the Dao embryos he left behind would not be so well-rounded otherwise. He Yunfang, like his daughter, was full of praise for the true master of the Dao stone. His eyes filled with admiration. The Dao embryos left by this predecessor not only free and at ease, but with an air of leisure and tranquility. I wonder if it's just an illusion, but his Dao embryos seemed perfectly in tune with our Crane Dao. In other words, our Crane Dao seems to have extended from his own. It's quite possible this predecessor is related to our Crane race, but cultivates a Dao far superior to ours. Father, you mean, he is our Crane race's remote ancestor? Yi Qing inquired. It's possible. Our Crane Dao originated from the Bird Dao, but above the Bird Dao is the powerful Phoenix Dao. Yet, the capabilities of this Dao seem to encompass even the Phoenix Dao. I'm merely speculating, as I can't ascertain the true nature of the Phoenix Dao, but it's without a doubt related to our Crane Dao, He Yunfang remarked with a serious expression. Although Yi Qing was more powerful than her father in terms of experience and knowledge, her father certainly had more. Hearing this, she was even more amazed. If only we could meet this predecessor, even a tiny bit of guidance from him would be immensely beneficial. Yi Qing couldn't help but mutter to herself. The father and daughter held heartfelt reverence for the master of the Dao Stone. In their eyes, this mysterious and powerful Ascension Realm predecessor most likely had intricate ties to their Crane race, possibly even being their Crane race's remote ancestor. This was immensely important to them. Yet, little did the father and daughter know, the master of that Dao Stone stood right before them. Is it really that exaggerated? Xiang Beifei rubbed his nose. Of course it is. Didn't young Master Xiang have any realization upon seeing this Dao Stone? Yi Yunfang asked. Xiang Beifei? Realization. The character Dao itself was my realization. In any case, for the sake of all our Crane race elders, we must acquire that Dao Stone. Yi Yunfang resolved determinedly. Xiang Beifei chuckled silently. Yi Yunfang believed the master of the Dao Stone was the remote ancestor of their Crane Dao. While not entirely accurate, it was quite close. Strictly speaking, Xiang Beifei's Dao embraced all things. He cultivated the 3,000 great Daos, so it wasn't just the Crane Dao. Other races' Daos could also evolve from his. To say that his cultivated Dao was the remote ancestor of the Crane Dao was not entirely off the mark. Yi Qing looked at the surrounding Dao enforcers. These people all seemed determined to acquire the Dao Stone. Even those who originally intended to sell their treasures had packed up early, drawn by this Dao Stone. Father, many people have set their sights on this Dao Stone today. Tomorrow's competition will surely be fierce. How much soil can we present? Yi Qing asked. After pondering for a moment, Yi Yunfang replied, Right now, I can only decide on around 90 zhang of soil. As the clan leader of the Crane race for 500 years, he had some authority over dealing with breath soil, but in reality it wasn't much. I just received 13 zhang of soil 2 days ago. Yi Qing handed a cloth bag to Yi Yunfang. It contained the breath soil she had just received from the Dao Palace. Even so, it's not enough. Judging by how much these people value the Dao Stone, although the starting price is only 50 zhang of soil, the final price will likely far exceed that. Yi Yunfang stated. Indeed. Yi Qing appeared quite discontent as well. Don't be discouraged. I'll go back and discuss with others. Gather from all the elders, perhaps we can collect around 200 zhang. Yi Yunfang said. Xiang Beifei was surprised. Huh? In such a small place as your Crane Dao courtyard, you can actually come up with 200 zhang of land. He recalled that the Crane Dao courtyard was built using formations, occupying just 400 or 500 square meters, which would barely convert to 200 zhang. Were they planning to dismantle their home, spending everything to buy the Dao Stone? Yi Yunfang explained. Not quite. What you see of the Crane Dao courtyard is merely where our clan members reside before reaching the Immortal Realm. In fact, other elders at the Immortal Realm would find their own quiet places to reside and cultivate, not far from our Crane Dao courtyard. They have their breath soil-built abodes, not to mention them, I have my own as well. Like private money or private soil? Xiang Beifei asked. Roughly. Each person builds their own abode for secluded cultivation. Yi Yunfang nodded slightly, then added. Moreover, breath soil cannot be entirely used for building houses. It also needs to be stored for unforeseen circumstances. In the event of overly powerful void tides crushing the territory, the whole clan would be displaced, right? Therefore, we use soil based on our numbers, but keep a reserve of it. Stored? Where? Space tools aren't safe, right? The Tao Palace has established breath soil banks that can store breath soil for us. They're set up in every city, and if there's an emergency, you can temporarily retrieve it. The Tao Palace has a unique way of recording things, so they never get it wrong. Yunfang said. So there are banks here too, huh? What's a bank? It's just what we call them where I'm from. Don't worry about it. Xiang Beifei waved his hand. Apparently, the Edge Corner airspace isn't as ancient as he imagined. Their system is quite well-rounded. Don't worry, young Master Xiang, you saved me. So if we obtain this Tao Stone, we'll definitely invite you to join us in understanding it. Yunfang said. Xiang Beifei touched his forehead. Well, then I thank you in advance. No need to thank me, it's only right. We'll see if we can get it with 200 lengths of soil. Not just me, but even the elders of the family, if we all comprehend this Tao Stone, it will surely benefit their cultivation levels. Maybe more elders of the crane race will reach new heights. We must buy this Tao Stone. Yunfang was determined to get this Tao Stone, hurriedly bidding them farewell to start gathering soil. Now you should understand how important soil is to us. We can't be wasteful with it. I told you this before. He Qing said to Xiang Beifei. All right. Xiang Beifei chuckled helplessly, but he wasn't planning to say anything just yet. Even if he did, Yunfang and his daughter probably wouldn't believe him. However, he was now contemplating something. How should he handle the Tao Stone issue? Because of the Tao Stone issue, there wasn't much to browse in the commercial tower, so they returned to the Tao Palace. With He Qing's Earth ranking status, she could stay at the Tao Palace for free. Others coming to Divine Feather City would need to pay for accommodation. He Qing quickly went to train, while Xiang Beifei found a secluded corner to discuss the matter with Xiaohe and the others. Era impatiently said, The Tao Stone could definitely sell for 10,000 lengths of soil. Let's start by making 100, and earn massive profits. Xiang Beifei said, No, the Tao Stone may seem free to us, but it's very precious to them. If we mass-produce it, it will lose its value. You can't sell too much of anything. It's like how merchants in Juzhou used to sell phones, limiting supply to create scarcity, with time-limited sales causing some people to act as scalpers and inflate prices. Yet if you wait, once the supply increases, phones become readily available and less valuable, causing the price to drop. The same principle applies to Tao Stones. Rarity is valuable. Once too many are produced, they will lose value. Yumong thought they should first see how much this Tao Stone sells for before deciding how many Tao words to create. Woof! With a head full of crafty ideas, Xiaohe's eyes darted cunningly. Then he grinned mischievously, coming up with an idea. Precious items have sets and can be sold separately. Meaning you can write a statement and round it up to a set of Tao Stones. For instance, the way of yin and yang begins from emptiness. All beings are wonderfully transformed. A total of 14 characters can be written on 14 Tao Stones, and then sold one by one. People will find one Tao Stone insufficient, needing more to understand further, and then realizing there are 14 Tao Stones to gain Tao, they'll purchase the set of 14. This would cause the prices of yet unsold Tao Stones to rise even higher. Do you feel like we've become unscrupulous merchants? Xiang Beifei couldn't help but laugh. Xiaohe proudly raised his head. We're not close to them. Earning money is nothing shameful. Honestly, I need to plan this carefully, ideally aiming to sell to the Tao Palace and make a tidy profit. Xiang Beifei wasn't very concerned about taking advantage of those he had no vendetta against. He just didn't have good feelings toward the Tao Palace, because it was the Tao Palace that issued the pursuit order against the human race in the Edge Corner airspace. Even what happened in Common Valley with Wufeng was based on the Tao Palace's one-sided account, causing the human race to be inexplicably declared evil, with people condemned to be killed on sight. He hadn't yet met anyone from the Tao Palace. Chen Fu, who was in charge of Divine Feather City affairs, only understood bureaucratic procedures, not the core of the Tao Palace. Xiang Beifei planned to try stirring things up a bit, scrapping with these Tao Palace folks, hoping to attract key figures from the Tao Palace to surface and learn more about the situation. However, Xiaohe's line, the way of yin and yang begins from emptiness, all beings are wonderfully transformed, couldn't be randomly written because it was a piece of information he received when obtaining the spirit-gathering book, and revealing that was unnecessary. I'll need to revise it. Xiang Beifei pondered, and Xiaohe was also offering ideas, and after discussing for a long time, they came up with the perfect phrase. The heavenly Tao is unkind. The human race should rise. This phrase should really annoy the Tao Palace. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but grin. Of course, it's crucial to sensibly allocate the order of the Tao stones appearing. Only one Tao character has emerged so far. The rest, like heavenly, unkind, etc., will come gradually, and as for the human character, it'll appear grandly when all Tao stones are released. Leave the surprise for last. Xiaohe laughed loudly with mouth open wide. Loving the naughty idea, Xiang Beifei condensed 7 stones from his breath soil and then wrote the remaining 7 characters on them, merging his Tao embryos into them, then waited for the Tao character to be sold the next day. The next day, people suddenly flocked to Divine Feather City. More and more Immortal Realm experts were pouring into the city, seemingly having gotten word, and many came specifically for the Tao Stone. He Yunfang returned too, appearing extremely cautious, and quickly disguised himself en route to meet Xiang Beifei and He Qing. "Dad, how did it go?" He Qing asked. He Yunfang shed his disguise and said, "Lucky me. I discussed with the eldest elder and we've gathered a total of 236 lengths of soil. This amount of breath soil exceeded his expectation, and was the largest chip he could currently offer. Hopefully, this price can snag the Tao Stone." He Qing said, "Let's head to Divine Feather Commercial Tower." He Yunfang clenched his fist, eyeing the Tao Stone as far more precious than 236 lengths of soil. Xiang Beifei also went with them to Divine Feather Commercial Tower, spotting more Immortal Realm experts than usual along the way, and upon reaching the tower, followed the crowd straight to the 7th floor, which was the auction hall, elegantly decorated with all kinds of private rooms. He Yunfang spent 3 inches of land to rent a private room, avoiding being recognized. It's smartest to hide your wealth, and if they actually win the auction, trade discreetly and quickly leave, to avoid being targeted. Many chose similar strategies, settling into their places, awaiting the auction's start. After about half an hour, Dongfang Xian finally emerged, his appearance silencing the entire auction hall, drawing every gaze to him, with a wooden box floating in front of him. "Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Divine Feather Commercial Tower. I am Dongfang Xian, the person in charge here." Dongfang Xian waved, introducing himself generously to everyone. "Senior Dongfang, no need for formalities. We're all here for the auction today, with clear intentions, so hurry and bring out the goods," someone urged impatiently. Smiling slightly, Dongfang Xian said, "Haha, well said, friend. We're all here for the Tao Stone, so I shan't beat around the bush. You should all be aware of the circumstances. We've been entrusted by the Divine Feather Commercial Tower to auction this Tao Stone. Let's see the item." He waved his hand, and the wooden box opened with a sound, revealing the Tao Stone imbued with profound Tao embryos floating in midair. Swoosh! Many eyes turned toward the Tao Stone, their gazes quickly becoming fervent upon spotting the Tao character. The Tao Stone appeared, and the Tao on it once again emitted a faint, mysterious brilliance. That profound Tao essence seemed to make the Tao embryos comprehended by everyone present tremble slightly. They sensed that the heavenly Tao power they comprehended could perfectly harmonize with the meaning embedded in the Tao Stone, as if the Tao on the stone was the ancestral origin of their comprehended Tao embryos. Such a profound Tao essence. Many present had come specifically for this, and upon seeing the Tao Stone, they couldn't help but express their amazement. Just one glance. But with that one glance, the meaning on the Tao Stone stirred their minds and spirits, and even their cultivated Tao embryos began to resonate, as if responding to the Tao essence on the stone. They vaguely perceived that carefully comprehending this Tao Stone would greatly benefit their own Tao cultivation. Would someone really put such a precious Tao Stone up for auction? Are they mad? Many couldn't help but think this. If it were them, having obtained such a Tao Stone, they would keep it hidden for their own cultivation, rather than sell it. However, Recalling the news heard yesterday, it seemed that a certain Dao family's practitioner had encountered a void tide and urgently needed soil to ensure the survival of their race. That made sense. Many grew excited again, realizing that the first person who had this Dao stone couldn't keep it, so now their chance had come. Dongfang Xian glanced around at everyone. Many had bought private boxes to conceal their identities, but he actually had an idea of who they were. The Dao stone had clearly aroused the interest of many, achieving its purpose. As long as they could sell the stone for a good price, they could earn more from the commission. Seeing everyone inevitably enraptured by the Dao essence on the stone, he then placed the Dao stone back into the wooden box, interrupting everyone's process of comprehending the Dao. Those whose comprehension process was interrupted felt dissatisfied, but dared not complain and quickly adjusted their mindset, shifting their attention back to Dongfang Xian. Now they fully understood the stone's value and were not going to let it go easily. You all have keen insight, and everyone has gauged the worth of this Dao stone in their hearts, so I won't say more. The starting price for this Dao stone is 50 measures of soil, with each increment no less than 1 measure. Dongfang Xian, experienced in such matters, went straight to the point. Bidding starts. He waved his hand. 55 measures. As soon as Dongfang Xian finished speaking, someone immediately called out a bid. 60 measures. 70 measures. 80 measures. Bids came in like a fierce tide, with hardly any pauses, and offers rolled out like a barrage of cannon fire, with many starting to raise their bids. Many had heard the news yesterday and came prepared today. For those in the immortal realm, after discussing with their families, those with any background could usually muster up to 100 measures of soil. But because everyone was so well prepared, the competition was intense. In no time, someone bid directly up to 160 measures. 160 measures of soil. This was no small sum. In the land-scarce edge corner airspace, even 1 measure of soil was a fortune, let alone 160 measures. Even a genius ranked 188 on the Earth ranking, like He Qing, only received an extra reward of 13 measures of soil over 10 years. This wasn't because the Dao Palace was stingy, but because 13 measures of soil was truly significant. After the price of 160 measures was shouted out, fewer people followed up. Although the Dao stone was precious, 160 measures of soil began to make people feel pressured. Dad, they seem unable to keep up with this price. We should act now, said He Qing. Okay. He Yunfang immediately called out the price. 180 measures. He raised the bid by 20 measures to drive others out. Because this Dao stone was definitely worth that price. Soon the auction hall grew quiet, as this price was even more daunting than before, and not everyone could afford it. But shortly after, another voice followed up with a bid. 190 measures. 190 measures. For many, not even collective family resources could cover this, so despite their reluctance, they had to give up. Another bid followed. 192 measures. Now it seemed only 3 parties were left bidding. He Yunfang called out again. 200 measures. With that price, the auction hall truly quieted down. 200 measures was indeed an astronomical number. The crane race had prepared 236 measures of soil. He Yunfang knew that if he didn't set a firm price, it might be hard to secure it. So he hoped the competitors would retreat in the face of difficulty and let him obtain the Dao stone. For him, this Dao stone was extremely important. 210 measures. But another person followed with a bid, seemingly determined to obtain the Dao stone as well. Who is that bidder? He Yunfang's gaze was fixed on the opposite box, but he didn't see the person clearly. The other party had concealed their identity for privacy, and he only knew that the competing bidder was in box number 19. It should be Tang Yingxin, He Qing said in a deep voice. Are you sure? It's definitely him. He just used that perception power to probe us, and I caught it. He Qing asserted confidently. She had fought against Tang Yingxin before. Ordinary people might not notice, but she subtly detected this familiar aura. He Qing's perception was correct. The bidder number 19 was indeed Tang Yingxin. At this moment, Tang Ingson looked nonchalant, yet his aura was still somewhat unsettled. A few days ago, he was defeated by He Qing and, thanks to the protection from Dao Palace, survived, relying on his clan's sacred healing herbs to recover somewhat. However, this incident had also become his disgrace. Being defeated by others was one thing, but losing to someone from the crane race was a mental block he couldn't get past. After all, their flying bird Dao cultivated a superior form of Dao embryo compared to the crane Dao. The Dao stone contained profound Dao embryos, providing a clearer direction for his cultivation. His understanding of the Dao stone was the same as He Yunfang's, treating the original owner of this Dao stone as his ancestral Dao embryo. Realizing this, he had to seize the Dao stone for himself. Because the crane race already possessed the divine phoenix bone, he needed to comprehend stronger Dao embryos to surpass the crane Dao once more. He Qing, do you think I will let you succeed? Although He Yunfang and his daughter had disguised themselves, he had been observing He Qing's movements these days. By relying on his understanding of the crane race, he noticed some traces and discovered that the people competing against him were this father and daughter. 220 fathoms. Tang Ingson unhesitatingly raised the bid again. It doesn't matter who, the senior who wrote this Dao character must have a connection with our crane race. We have to obtain it. He Yunfang clenched his fist. 235 fathoms. He Yunfang bit his teeth again. He went all out, only hoping the opponent would not raise the bid again, as his budget was only 236 fathoms. This price was already his limit. The auction hall remained quiet for a long time, seemingly stunned by the price. Because Divine Feather City was just a small city, it did not attract many large clan forces. Many people couldn't offer so much breath soil, and some of the weaker clans couldn't even gather 235 fathoms with the elders' private stash combined. On the relative side, the crane race was considered a well-established clan among those present today. He Qing was also extremely nervous, as this Dao stone was incredibly important to them. She also hoped to thoroughly comprehend the mysterious essence revealed on the character. The father and daughter were anxiously observing, so much so that they didn't even notice someone missing from their room. But on the other side, Tang Ingson shouted out his final price. 250 fathoms. He Yunfang's face turned pale, and he powerlessly sat back down. He couldn't follow with the price any longer. How could this happen? He Yunfang felt truly unwilling in his heart. It was a Dao stone that could enable his enlightenment, and yet he still couldn't obtain it. Dad, we did our best. He Qing also sighed slightly, comforting her father. In truth, her desire for this Dao stone was unprecedented. The mighty senior who could write the word Dao had already become a role model in her heart. She hoped immensely to understand that great senior through the Dao stone, but reality was just so cruel. He Yunfang's mood turned extremely heavy. Shao Qing, have you thought about what the consequences would be if Tang Ingson obtained the Dao stone? He Qing was startled. Their crane Dao and flying bird Dao, to put it bluntly, actually shared the same lineage. If the original owner of this Dao stone belonged to their crane Dao's remote ancestor, that would mean the original owner of the Dao stone was also the remote ancestor of the flying bird Dao. If Tang Ingson, relying on this Dao stone, comprehended the ancestral Dao embryos, his cultivation could very well reach another level. So, if they ever faced Tang Ingson again in the future, He Qing might no longer be able to defeat him. At this thought, the father and daughter felt as if their chests were pressed down by a mountain, heavy laden. Not only had they not obtained the Dao stone, but they'd also let Tang Ingson take it away, simply making it worse. The father and daughter were too disappointed to realize someone was missing from their box. Xiang Beifei had disappeared. The auction hall was quiet for a long time, with no one raising the bid further. 250 fathoms of earth was indeed a bit high. 250 fathoms of earth. Anyone else wishing to raise the bid? Dongfang Xian inquired. No one responded. Dongfang Xian asked 3 more times, then slightly smiled and said, "Since there's no one else raising the bid, congratulations to this fellow Taoist for winning this rare Dao stone at the price of 250 fathoms. Tang Ingson breathed a sigh of relief, and a weight in his heart dropped. 235 fathoms of earth. Tang Ingson's family was wealthier and much more opulent than the crane race. This time, they managed to gather 300 fathoms of earth, successfully suppressing He Yunfang. Crane race, just you wait. Once I comprehend the Tao embryos and my cultivation advances further, I will surely reclaim my honor. Tang Ingson snorted coldly. Dongfang Xian collected the wooden box, and many people appeared quite disappointed, wishing to glimpse the Tao stone one more time. Would Bidder 19 please come backstage later for the transaction? And now about today. As Dongfang Xian was about to say some pleasantries to conclude this auction, suddenly a woman hurriedly approached the stage, came to Dongfang Xian's side, and gestured to him. Dongfang Xian was somewhat displeased. Interrupting a speech under such circumstances was extremely rude, but this woman was also one of the managers of the Divine Feather Commercial Tower. Seeing her urgency, she seemed to have something important. He asked softly, "What's wrong?" The woman whispered a few words next to Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian's complexion changed suddenly, astonished. "Are you sure? This isn't a joke. With so many fellow Taoists present here." "Absolutely certain. The other elders have already gone over. They've all asked you to explain the situation, then come to confirm." The woman delivering the message respectfully stated. Dongfang Xian quickly composed himself, looked around, noting that some fellow Taoists attending the auction were preparing to leave. Not winning the Tao stone left them quite uninterested. "Everyone, wait a moment. Just now, I received some news that even I find incredible, and in all my years, I never thought I'd encounter such a thing." Dongfang Xian spoke up. "Senior Dongfang, what has happened?" Many people asked curiously, pausing. Dongfang Xian was a highly prestigious elder of the Divine Feather Commercial Tower, who usually would not appear unless for significant auction items. Many people knew him and trusted his words. "This matter seems unbelievable even to me, but just now our auction house received another Tao stone, estimated to be from the same source as the previous one, and it's also entrusted to us for auction," Dongfang Xian said. "What? Another Tao stone received?" He Yunfang, sitting in the box, feeling low, suddenly raised his head sharply, looking toward Dongfang Xian. He Qing also found it unbelievable. Was there a second Tao stone? Is there a mistake? A single Tao stone is immensely rare, and there is a second one. Not only He Yunfang and his daughter but others also appeared skeptical. This scenario seemed too extraordinary. Could Tao stones just appear so easily? Originally, as Tang Ingson was about to pay for the earth, he too frowned. How could there be a second Tao stone? A single Tao stone was already extremely rare. Could Tao stones actually come in pairs? I will go and confirm. If any fellow Taoists interested in the second Tao stone without urgent matters, please wait a moment for further news. Dongfang Xian hurriedly left. Everyone looked at each other. Dongfang Xian did not attempt to retain them forcefully. He just stated the situation before departing. Still, many people paused, beginning to exchange whispers, wanting to see what Dongfang Xian was up to. Especially He Yunfang, waiting eagerly. If there really was a second Tao stone, they would have an opportunity. They understood well that even if Tang Ingson was wealthy, he couldn't possibly procure the earth for 2 Tao stones at once. In this way, they had hope. Is there really a second Tao stone? He Yunfang muttered to himself. Backstage of the auction hall, Dongfang Xian rushed into a bright and spacious meeting room, where 3 other elders were present. These elders exuded calm. Their cultivation levels were all at the mid-stage of immortality, and they were all experts of the Divine Feather Commercial Tower. "Brother Dongfang, take a look at this Tao stone," one of the bald elders said with a serious expression. This bald elder was named Shang Quansheng, also an elder of the Golden Toad race, and like Dongfang Xian, he came from the same race. The Divine Feather Commercial Tower was one of their industries. At this moment, a very mysterious stone was floating in the air of the meeting room. The stone still looked ordinary, but there was another character written above it. No. This character No was graceful and unrestrained, with an aura of spiritual energy in every stroke. At first glance, it was just a word, but upon closer inspection, it contained another strong Tao essence. Unconventional and unrestrained. Dongfang Xian merely glanced at it, and he seemed captivated, gazing at the character No, as if watching a rebellious vagabond singing and drinking, laughingly discussing the heavenly Tao. The boundless meaning it conveyed stirred the heart, making one feel as if being unrestrained was the essence of the world, further causing the Tao embryo he cultivated to waver, as if it too wanted to soar with that essence, stepping into a whole new realm. Truly a kindred Tao stone. Dongfang Xian suddenly shook his head, pulling himself out of the essence of the character No. Visibly shaken, his determination was quite strong, knowing how to keep himself clear-headed. But at this moment, great waves had already arisen within his heart. Dongfang Xian approached the Tao stone, striving to control himself, refusing to plunge into that essence. Once he managed to stabilize himself, he took a closer look and discovered 3 more imprints on this character No. A hoof print, a claw print, and a small handprint, identical to that of the other Tao stone. Where did this Tao stone come from? Dongfang Xian asked in surprise. A mysterious young man brought it earlier, claiming he accidentally acquired this Tao stone and wanting us to auction it. Shang Quanxing said with a heavy expression. Same as the first seller? No, both sellers concealed their identities, but I could identify the first seller as someone from the tiger race. However, the second one, his strength is formidable, and I can't discern his race. Shang Quanxing slowly explained. The Golden Toad race practiced the financial path, operating the Divine Feather commercial tower for millennia, handling countless transactions. Their eyes for treasure appraisal and people were exceptionally sharp. Yet Shang Quanxing could not see through this young man. 2 Tao stones with similar essence. Wait, could they be? Thinking of something, Dongfang Xian hastily exclaimed. The first Tao stone hasn't been handed out yet, right? No, I've had it temporarily held back using formalities as an excuse. Shang Quanxing gestured, and soon a servant brought in a wooden box. Dongfang Xian immediately opened the wooden box, taking out the Tao stone inscribed with the character Tao. As soon as this Tao stone appeared, the character Tao suddenly lit up, and the intangible essence moved instantly, while the Tao stone inscribed with No also became exceedingly mysterious, resonating with the first Tao stone. The 2 Tao stones complemented each other, and the essence they exuded merged, revealing deeper Tao insights. One character Tao, one character No. Could they truly reach such a level? Everyone present was utterly astonished. Watching the 2 characters, Dongfang Xian conjectured in amazement. Tao No, could this be? Could it be a part of a sentence? The elder beside him suddenly realized and asked, Do you mean the Ascension Realm Senior who left the Tao insight didn't just write words on one stone? The others also turned serious. If this were true, then the significance and value of this Tao stone would be far greater. Let's try. With great caution, Dongfang Xian held the 2 Tao stones, rotated them slightly, and then discovered a crack at the edge, aligning the 2 Tao stones together. They actually fit perfectly. It truly is a sentence. Everyone was deeply shaken. The character No was connected to the character Tao. I guess that when the Ascension Realm Senior was cultivating, they gained an insight and inscribed a sentence of that insight on a stone. It's still unclear how many characters are in this sentence, but it's evident that Tao and No are included within it. It's just that later they were shattered and separated. Dongfang Xian offered a reasonable speculation. Shang Quanxing and the other elders nodded slightly, agreeing with this idea, as it was the only explanation for why the characters Tao and No could resonate with each other and merge harmoniously. In the minds of the elders, a thought simultaneously surfaced. If this speculation is correct, then there certainly exist other Tao stones. If all these Tao stones could be collected, perhaps they could inherit the legacy of that Ascension Realm Senior. Spreading this news would undoubtedly cause an enormous uproar, an Ascension Realm inheritance. Even experts like Dongfang Xian and Shang Quanxing who had lived for millions of years, could not help but long for it, for they were only at the mid-stage of immortality, but what they faced was the inheritance of an Ascension Realm power. Shang Quanqing gathered himself and asked, "So how do we handle these 2 Dao stones now? If it's just 1, it's alright, not worth much, but 2 makes a difference." Dongfang Xian glanced at Shang Quanqing and said solemnly, "What do you expect to do? We are cultivating the Tao of wealth, comprehending the Tao of fortune, only responsible for appraising treasures and transactions. Handle it as it should be handled." As a highly respected elder of the Divine Feather Commercial Tower, Dongfang Xian handles matters quite calmly. Although these 2 Tao stones are extremely precious, they hold considerable benefits for their golden toad Tao. But he will not think of taking them for himself, as this concerns the reputation of the Divine Feather Commercial Tower. Not adhering to rules is essentially ruining their own brand, and in the future, their Divine Feather Commercial Tower wouldn't survive in the Edge Corner airspace. Not to mention one piece has already been auctioned. Even if it's more valuable, it cannot be intercepted. Though we cannot keep the Tao stones, we must publicize this matter well. Heavily promote the heritage concerning the Ascension Realm to enhance our commercial tower's reputation. Dongfang Xian said, "Do you mean we can't buy these 2 Tao stones?" Shang Quanqing asked hesitantly. These 2 Tao stones indeed made his heart flutter. Impossible. First, we cannot determine how many characters that Ascension Realm Senior wrote, nor where the remaining Tao stones are, which are unknown. Secondly, by spreading the word about the heritage of the Ascension Realm Senior, informing all Taoists in the Edge Corner airspace that our Divine Feather Commercial Tower auctioned the Tao Stone of Heritage Insight left by such a senior from the Ascension Realm, our reputation will become more illustrious. Therefore, you all need to understand one thing. Many times, reputation is more important than Tao stones. Our Divine Feather Commercial Tower can auction such precious treasures. Naturally, more people will come to us for trade in the future. If the 3rd, 4th Tao stones could be auctioned here, the benefits we will receive will be even greater. So you must have a long-term vision. None of you should have any thoughts about these 2 Tao stones. Understand? Understood. Shang Quanqing and several other elders knew Dongfang Xian's words were right, and even if there was regret in their hearts, they could only suppress those thoughts. In business, long-term benefits are certainly better than short-term gains. Go spread this news. I'll go meet the one with the 2nd Tao stone, Dongfang Xian said. Dongfang Xian walked into the VIP lounge, a place designated for receiving people of prestigious status or cultivation, different from ordinary VIP reception rooms. The Divine Feather Commercial Tower does secretly distinguish the level of hospitality for guests, treating those who can see through and those who can't be seen through with utmost caution, receiving them with the highest standard of etiquette. The room was very bright, with chairs and tables made of luxurious cedarwood neatly arranged. The patterns on these woods were not merely simple carvings but also contained special formations to adjust temperature and change the chair shape according to each person's height and sitting posture. A layer of red carpet was laid on the floor, embroidered with lavish patterns and full of formations, giving a light but firm feeling when stepped on, very comfortable, as if a force beneath was supporting the person, making it effortless to walk on. Xiang Beifei was sitting there, savoring a cup of fragrant tea on the table. Even this tea contained a rare spiritual power, being 1,000-year-old snowy mountain white tea, and the red little fruits on the plate had a millennium of heritage. The life of a rich person is truly plain and unadorned. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but exclaim. At this moment, Dongfang Xian had already walked in, and upon seeing Xiang Beifei sipping tea on the chair, a glimmer flashed in his eyes. But quickly, his heart turned solemn, because he couldn't discern this young man's true cultivation. Dongfang Xian, a master in the middle stage of eternal life, having lived for over 10,000 years, sometimes handled auction affairs here when his secluded cultivation and insights into heavenly Tao couldn't make progress while refining his Tao of wealth through social interaction. With a keen eye for people due to the multitude he had seen, even the most advanced disguise could generally be seen through with one look, knowing their exact weight. Yet, the young man before him looked like a calm lake at first glance, without revealing his aura, unable to tell what race or realm he was from. A master indeed. Dongfang Xian immediately cupped his hands with a smile. Taoist, I am Dongfang Xian, an elder of the Divine Feather Commercial Tower. Thank you for waiting. Hello. Xiang Beifei put down the teacup, stood up, and nodded slightly. May I know how to address you? My surname is Mu. Taoist Mu. Dongfang Xian gave a slight smile, swiftly pondering this surname, which seemed absent from the heaven and earth ranking. Taoist Mu, may I ask, where did you acquire this Tao stone? I wish to better determine its value for a proper appraisal. We need a thorough understanding of this Tao stone to avoid misguiding others. Dongfang Xian said cautiously. Acquired from an ancient relic by chance. That relic has vanished, and I was fortunate to obtain a Tao stone. Xiang Beifei lied through his teeth. I see. Dongfang Xian said so verbally, but his eyes flickered, seemingly somewhat distrustful. Yet he did not show it obviously, though he didn't expect his counterpart to speak the truth. He then subtly probed and conversed with Xiang Beifei, trying to deduce this young man's identity from his accent, way of speaking, tone, and so forth, but soon realized he failed in every attempt. Dongfang Xian found nothing after a slew of pleasantries, leaving him with heavier thoughts. Being unable to extract any information is the most terrifying. This mysterious person must not be provoked. Does Taoist Mu know we also auctioned a Tao stone today? Yes. I noticed everyone seemed very enthusiastic about the Tao stone, so I brought it out, hoping for a good price. Xiang Beifei replied. Haven't you ever thought of comprehending this Tao stone yourself? Dongfang Xian asked. Xiang Beifei said, Unfortunately, the Tao I cultivate does not align with the Tao of this Tao stone. Keeping it is useless, better to sell it to the fated one. Dongfang Xian nodded thoughtfully. We will do our best. Taoist Mu may accompany me to the auction site for observation. Please come this way. Dongfang Xian said very politely. Xiang Beifei nodded slightly, not paying much attention, and followed along. A piece of news had spread throughout the entire auction house, causing the entire venue to erupt. The second Tao stone turned out to be of the same origin as the first. This means the insight left by that senior from the Ascension realm is part of a sentence, with only the insights Tao and not currently revealed, and the whereabouts of other Tao stones unknown. A single Tao stone could bring massive shock to people. If more Tao stones could be obtained, it would be unimaginably valuable. But today, everyone knows how hard it is to bid for a Tao stone. The first already fetched a sky-high price. How could the second come easily? How could there be a second Tao stone? The one who found this most unacceptable was Tang Yingxin, who acquired the first Tao stone. For the first Tao stone, he had already spent all the breath soil he brought, now leaving him penniless, unable to afford the second Tao stone. If the Tao stone is a complete set, he must look for the second, third. If I could collect all the Tao stones, it's tantamount to obtaining the heritage left by that Ascension Realm senior. Maybe then my cultivation could reach a higher level. Leaping from the earth ranking directly to the heavenly ranking would be entirely possible. Tang Yingxin clenched his fists, his gaze boiling with fervor. I wish to see whose hands the second Tao stone will fall into today. He showed a glint of ferocity in his eyes. Though without breath soil to buy, it doesn't mean he couldn't acquire this Tao stone through other means. Dad, should we bid for this Tao stone? He Qing asked in a deep voice. Even they didn't expect the appearance of a second Tao stone. Because now the Tao stones are not just a single Tao stone but have become a set of Tao stones, which means that buying only one Tao stone won't be enough. Let's look at the Tao stone first, He Yunfang replied. Without seeing the Tao stone, you can't easily make conclusions about anything. The second auction arrived as scheduled. Dongfang Xian had already brought another wooden box up, and many people turned their attention back, staring at this wooden box, preparing to see if it was indeed the second Tao stone. Everyone, I didn't anticipate the appearance of the second Tao stone either, but since a seller entrusted me to handle this transaction, I can only showcase it to you all. As he spoke, he opened the wooden box and took out the second Tao stone. The word "no" appeared vividly in the air. Mystical ambience surrounded it, enchanting everyone. once again drawing them into the Tao embryos they cultivated. In the private room, both He Yunfang and He Qing were stunned, then abruptly stood up. The No embodies a free, unrestrained, desireless aura, as if breaking free from a cage, unfettered by worldly bonds, soaring high, pursuing one's power. That's our Tao, He Yunfang said with a shocked expression. The crane race belongs to the birds, and flying higher and farther is their pursuit. The No character on this Tao stone exudes a bold spirit of breaking free from constraints, unwilling to be trapped in tiny corners, perfectly complementing the Tao of aviance. We must get this Tao stone. Just a glance at this Tao stone had He Yunfang already made up his mind. What does it matter if it's a set of Tao stones? What does it matter if they don't know where the remaining Tao stones are? The predecessor who left behind the Tao stones was of extremely high caliber, and just this one No Tao stone had already greatly benefited their crane Tao, with countless Tao insights to comprehend. The insights that can be derived from this No Tao stone far exceed that of the Tao character for the crane race. Let's get this Tao stone. As long as anyone in our race can raise their cultivation level through this Tao stone, it will be absolutely worth it, He Yunfang said to He Qing with a serious face. He Qing also understood this principle, and they didn't need to worry about the whereabouts of other Tao stones, as just one Tao stone would satisfy them greatly, particularly herself. If she could advance to the late stage of eternal life through this Tao stone, she might even secure a higher ranking on the Earth ranking, potentially breaking into the top 100. In this way, they could recover their investment in breath soil in just a few decades. I still feel our breath soil is not enough, because I noticed that many people seem to have banded together, preparing to bid for this Tao stone, He Yunfang said. Upon learning of the existence of a second Tao stone, those with foresight realized the value of this Tao stone, akin to a collectible that would retain its value. Even if they couldn't use it, they could sell it off, and the first seller would definitely want it. By then, the price wouldn't be just as simple as 250 zhang. During the break, I went to the Tao Palace and asked Steward Chen for a loan of 40 zhang of land. Not sure if it's enough, He Qing said. They initially thought that 236 zhang of soil, a huge sum, would be enough to buy the first Tao stone, but unexpectedly it wasn't. So, upon learning of the second Tao stone, they borrowed more. Tao Palace does favor geniuses on the Earth ranking, allowing them to borrow some breath soil in advance based on their ranking and potential. They thought He Qing's strength would only improve, evaluated it, and advanced her 40 zhang of land. I also saw some dear friends from Divine Feather City coming to watch the auction, so I borrowed 20 zhang of breath soil from them, now totaling 296 zhang. He Yunfang still felt uneasy and said, "By the way, where's young Master Xiang? We must also borrow those 2 zhang of breath soil from him to round up the amount." "I don't know. He doesn't look interested in the Tao stone. He might be wandering around. I looked everywhere but couldn't find him." He Qing now focused her mind entirely on the Tao stone, leaving Xiang Beifei to his own devices. Meanwhile, the second auction had already started, and Dongfang Xian still announced a starting bid of 50 zhang. 200 zhang. As soon as Dongfang Xian finished speaking, someone immediately raised the bid. This price was truly aggressive, jumping directly from 50 zhang to 200 zhang. But no one was surprised, because the first Tao stone sold for 250 zhang, and now the second stone's price leaped forward. It was to be expected. 250 zhang. He Yunfang promptly followed up, making the second bid directly match the first Tao stone's price. 260 zhang. Sure enough, someone followed further. Moments ago, others besides He Yunfang and his daughter had gathered soil prepared to collaborate on purchasing it for mutual research. 270 zhang. He Yunfang called out again. 280 zhang. H. 300 zhang. He Yunfang almost summoned all his courage to shout out this price. 300 zhang of soil. As soon as this price emerged, the entire room fell into silence. The opponents seemed willing to keep up, but evidently lacked the momentum. Even united, they couldn't gather as much as 300 zhang of soil. They were scattered individuals. Even if they temporarily collaborated, they couldn't outbid a well-prepared He Yunfang. Damn it! How could it be raised to such a high price? Tang Yingxin was furious. He had originally prepared 300 zhang of land to buy the Dao stone, but after buying the first piece, he only had 50 zhang left, which was not enough to participate in the bidding for the second piece. Even if their avian clan's assets were vast, they could not immediately produce such a large amount of land. Tang Yingxin glared at box number 30. He knew who the bidder was. Dongfang Xian was also quite emotional. 300 zhang. 300 zhang of land is enormous, even larger than the total territory of some small races, and this price exceeded expectations, even surpassing the first Dao stone. Their Divine Feather commercial tower had auctioned 2 Dao stones exceeding 250 zhang of land in one day. This event would surely spread, causing a sensation in the Edge Corner airspace and bringing publicity to their Divine Feather commercial tower. The auction house takes a 5% commission, earning more than 27 zhang, making it very profitable. Daoist from box 30 has bid 300 zhang of land. Is there anyone willing to offer more? Dongfang Xian looked around and asked loudly. 300 zhang for the first time. 300 zhang for the second time. 300 zhang for the third time. Congratulations to this Daoist for winning the second Dao stone at a price of 300 zhang. Dongfang Xian brought the auction of the second Dao stone to a close with a decisive swing of the hammer. Quick, Xiao Qing, go find young Master Xiang. Ask him to lend us 2 zhang of land, or else it won't be enough. He Yunfang urged. All right. He Qing quickly got up and went to find Xiang Beifei. 300 zhang, not bad. But Xiang Beifei looked at box number 30 with a wry smile. He didn't expect the final outcome to be that he Yunfang and his daughter ended up buying it. I was planning to take advantage of someone else. And here you are making things complicated. Xiang Beifei helplessly sighed. But thinking about it, now the reputation of the 2 Dao stones would spread, and many people would realize the value of the Dao stones, beginning to pay attention to this Dao stone. When he releases the remaining characters in the future, the price of this Dao stone will increase rapidly. After all, any character he wrote casually was worth a lot. A word worth 1,000 gold. If these crane people were really short on money, selling this Dao stone again would surely earn them more. In the long run, they wouldn't lose out. Xiang Beifei quickly left the auction venue and went to the backstage. Dongfang Xian was already waiting for him there. Daoist Mu, there is a situation with the buyer. They've requested a 15-minute delay in payment. I specifically came to inform you. Dongfang Xian cupped his hands and said. What's the issue? Xiang Beifei asked. They've won but couldn't turn the breath soil around in time. Dongfang Xian hurriedly explained. Rest assured, no one dares to violate the rules in our commercial tower. They have all deposited a certain amount of security here, and we have it recorded. It's just that the amount is quite large this time, and they said they are still short of 4 zhang of land and are finding ways to gather it. 4 zhang short. Xiang Beifei found it both amusing and vexing. This father-daughter pair sold everything they had and were still 4 zhang short? On the other side, He Yunfang was in the reception room, looking somewhat awkward, because he could only muster 296 zhang of land, 4 zhang short. He Qing had gone to collect more land, but he hadn't returned yet. If they couldn't pay the full 300 zhang, then they might not be able to leave the Divine Feather commercial tower today. You haven't gathered enough breath soil? Shang Quanxing asked with a frown. Daoist Shang, rest assured. We are working hard to collect the necessary 4 zhang of land. The price of today's transaction is indeed high, and our preparation was insufficient. I've already sent my daughter out to gather it. Can you ask the other Daoists to wait a little longer? Yunfang said with a wry smile. Purchasing an item without the breath soil for payment would result in severe consequences. I can't make that decision. Our commercial tower only handles transactions, not extending credit or accepting defaults. If you can't handle the 4 zhang of breath soil, you know the consequences. Shang Quanxing replied harshly. Rest assured, we won't intentionally default. My daughter is ranked 188th on the Earth ranking, so we definitely have some credibility, and she'll be back soon. Yunfang quickly said. I'm lenient because of your daughter. You should understand that. Shang Quanxing said. Yes, yes. He Yunfeng was also anxious. If it didn't work out, he would have his daughter return home and take apart the Crane Dao courtyard to make up 4 zhang of land. This time, to gather breath soil, they dismantled much of the elders' quiet cultivation caves and borrowed people's private soil. The only remaining space to touch was the Crane Dao courtyard, where descendants who hadn't reached the immortal realm lived. The Crane Dao courtyard's foundation was only 400 to 500 square meters, using some scattered breath soil around the sky for expansion and protection. In total, they had about 60 zhang of soil within the entire Crane Dao courtyard. These were built by specialized experts, with each zhang of soil complementing the other, being used wisely to maximize the blocking of void power. Every inch of soil was used optimally, with no waste of space or breath soil. If 4 zhang were taken from the Crane Dao courtyard, it might have to be rebuilt. But if nothing else worked, He Yunfeng would have to grit his teeth and do it. To say the crane race was pouring everything into acquiring this Dao stone is no exaggeration. Dad, He Qing returned. How about it? Did you find young Master Xiang? He Yunfeng hurriedly asked. He Qing shook his head and said, I don't know where he ran off to, and I just borrowed another zhang of land, but we're still 3 short, and we've borrowed all we could. Looks like we'll have to dismantle the house. He Yunfeng sighed. But at that moment, Dongfang Xian's voice came over. Taoist He, no need to worry. Just now a message came from the seller, saying you can give whatever breath soil you have, and the missing 3 to 4 zhang can be disregarded. Dongfang Xian said. Disregarded? He Yunfeng asked joyfully. Is this for real? Yes, that Taoist is very generous and has saved you some trouble. Dongfang Xian smiled. But why? We have never met him, and he doesn't even know that we're the buyers. Why would he waive this amount of land? He Qing asked in surprise. Dongfang Xian said, I don't know. I'm only responsible for being the intermediary, and I don't ask about anything else. To him, if the Taoist Mu decided to waive the breath soil, it was their business. Their commercial tower would still take 5% of the auction price of 300 zhang as commission. So Dongfang Xian didn't need to concern himself with their reasons. Can we meet this Taoist to thank him personally? He Yunfeng asked hastily. Dongfang Xian smiled and shook his head. The auction had rules. If a guest wanted to keep their identity confidential, they wouldn't let the buyer and seller meet to avoid any unnecessary disputes. All right, just pay the breath soil you've collected, and the Dao stone is yours, Dongfang Xian said without further words. Okay, right away. Right away. He Yunfeng hurriedly produced his breath soil. In the VIP room of the auction house, Tang Yingxin was sitting with a stern face, pondering over the second Dao stone. Although he hadn't even comprehended the first Dao stone, he was bothered that the second Dao stone ended up in the hands of the crane race. At that moment, he suddenly sensed something, raised his head coldly, and shouted, Who? Ha! Long time no see, Taoist Tang. A soft voice came over, accompanied by a gust of wind, and a shadow had already taken a seat beside Tang Yingxin. Tang Yingxin was startled, immediately stood up, and glared at this unexpected visitor. There was strong protection here, but the other party had entered as if there was no one, without alerting any outside guards. Are you, Kai Kuan? Tang Yingxin quickly recognized the person who had entered and was instantly astounded. So Taoist Tang still remembers me. That makes dealing with the Dao stone matter easier. That person smiled softly. Tang Yingxin's heart skipped a beat, growing uneasy. The reason was simple. This person was a genius ranked 98th on the Earth ranking. The 98th place on the Earth ranking with extremely powerful strength. Is not on the same level as someone like Tang Yingxin, who ranks 199th. Even if Tang Yingxin's actual ranking should be higher, it's still not comparable to this person's finger. Tang Yingxin is very aware of Kai Kuan's information. He reached the immortal realm at 231 years old, then advanced to the mid-immortal realm at 415 years old. During his first Heaven and Earth ranking competition, he defeated the 98th ranked sidewalking tribe genius Lu Ji. He has maintained the 98th place for 60 years now. The most intimidating aspect is his eerie strength. Keep in mind the Earth ranking has 200 slots, with the ranks from 100 to 200 consisting of mid-immortal realm geniuses, whereas the top 100 are all late immortal realm. Even the 99th rank is a master at the late immortal realm. Yet, Kai Kuan alone maintains a position within the top 100 at the Earth ranking while still at the mid-immortal realm. Years ago, Kai Kuan used his mid-immortal realm strength to overwhelm the late immortal realm Lu Ji, triumphant over the powerful, shocking the entire Edge Corner airspace and engraving Kai Kuan's name into many minds. 60 years have passed, yet the 99th ranked late immortal realm genius hasn't challenged Kai Kuan, rumored that he lacks the confidence to defeat him and thus remains in secluded cultivation. It's unfathomable that someone at the mid-immortal realm can defeat a late immortal realm contender and still intimidate another late immortal realm genius. Therefore, Kai Kuan has been bestowed with the title Invincible at mid-immortal realm by many. Tang Yingxin, realizing such a genius seeks him out, turns pale and feels extremely uneasy. He knows well that against this invincible at mid-immortal realm talent, he can't withstand even a single move. It's because the Dao embryo Kai Kuan cultivates in is Kuan Dao. Kuan Dao is a highly unique Dao embryo. In the northern abyss there is a fish named Kuan. Its size is unknown. It later transforms into a bird named Rock. Within flying bird Dao, divine birds such as phoenixes and vermilion birds are revered. Following them are gold-winged Rock and azure phoenix. Thus, the Rock is a high-ranking racial Dao embryo within flying bird Dao. Yet, the Kuan race surpasses the Rocks in strength. It encompasses both Rock Dao and Fish Dao, equating to a formidable heavenly Dao of combined power, far beyond what the flying bird Dao can dare to provoke. Daoist Kai, are you interested in my Dao stone? Tang Yingxin asked in a deep voice. Haha. Daoist Tang is indeed astute. Kai Kuan replied with a sly smile. He looks very young, his skin pale, his voice soft and crisp, devoid of the Rock's domineering aura. Yet no one dares to underestimate him. Tang Yingxin's heart sank. I bought this with 250 units of breath soil. He emphasized. I know. Kai Kuan leisurely picked up the teapot from the table, poured himself a cup of tea and said, This Dao stone was sold by Spirit-Controlling Tiger at my behest. What? Spirit-Controlling Tiger? Tang Yingxin was somewhat surprised. The Divine Feather commercial tower wouldn't disclose the transaction information of sellers and buyers. Hence, he didn't even know whose Dao stone it was. Spirit-Controlling Tiger is an elder of the Tiger race, yet Kai Kuan belongs to the Kuan race. How could they have collaborated? Kai Kuan calmly explained. This Dao stone was originally obtained by Spirit-Controlling Tiger from a divine inheritance in the great desolate realm. Spirit-Controlling Tiger requested my help, gifting this Dao stone to me. The Dao intent on the stone is indeed profound. After just a few days of comprehension, my cultivation improved significantly. However, I've internalized its Dao intent, hence it's useless to me now, so I asked Spirit-Controlling Tiger to sell it. He gently sipped his tea and continued, but I didn't anticipate this Dao stone to be from a great inquiring Dao master's insight, nor did I expect there to be more Dao stones, much less the appearance of a second today. So, I've decided not to sell it anymore. Daoist, are you reneging? Tang Yingxin asked. Indeed. I'd like to buy back this Dao stone. Kai Kuan intends to retrieve the first Dao stone and then seek out the second. Tang Yingxin's expression fluctuated. Anyone would refuse such a transaction. Yet, the Kuan race is something the Yvain clan dare not provoke. Kai Kuan, ranking 88th, is stronger than him. As for Kai Kuan's reputation, he had heard long ago. This person is powerful and acts with extreme dominance. It is said that once a heavenly connection realm cultivator failed to recognize him while opening a shop, neglecting him, and the next day, his entire race territory faced extermination. And how they got eradicated, no one knows. Although the Yvain clan is much more formidable than that race, if refusal was given, Tang Yingxin couldn't be sure he could safely return. Especially, once he leaves Divine Feather City, Kai Kuan would have countless ways to intercept him on the road, and he wouldn't even know how he died. Tang Yingxin felt extremely vexed, initially planning to intercept the crane race person, snatch the second Dao stone, but now found himself targeted first. Yet, at present, he's too afraid to cross the other party. Apart from agreeing to return it, there's no other way. Fine, since Daoist Kai wants it, I'll return the Dao stone to you. Gritting his teeth, Tang Yingxin nevertheless managed to squeeze out a smile, retrieving the Dao stone. Kai Kuan laughed. Daoist Tang is indeed sensible. Well, here's your breath soil. He tossed a spatial pouch to Tang Yingxin. Tang Yingxin accepted the spatial pouch containing breath soil, opened it for a glance, and immediately his face dramatically changed, saying, Daoist Kai, haven't you miscalculated? This is only 130 units of breath soil. Kai Kuan took the Dao stone, put it away, and said, No mistake in calculations. Consider the rest as a goodwill gesture to you. Goodwill? Tang Yingxin almost exploded. He spent 250 lengths of breath soil to buy this Dao stone, and even after deducting the Divine Feather Commercial Tower service fee, Kai Kuan should have received about 237 lengths of breath soil. Yet the other party reneged on the sale, wanted it back, and only paid him 130 lengths. Where in the world is there such a deal? Tang Yingxin clenched his fists in fury. This means he got nothing from this auction and lost 120 lengths. But he dared not resist, for Kai Kuan's power was far too strong, beyond what he could afford to offend. Moreover, this person's tyranny is well known. Kai Kuan claimed Spirit-Controlling Tiger had a favor to ask of him, but who knows if Spirit-Controlling Tiger was actually forced into it. All right, I'll consider this as owing you a favor, and if something comes up in the future, I can help you resolve it. Kai Kuan contentedly put away the Dao stone and walked out. Tang Yingxin suddenly thought of something and said, Are you planning to find the second Dao stone? What do you think? Do you know who bought the second Dao stone? I'm investigating. Divine Feather Commercial Tower won't tell me. But that doesn't mean I can't find out. Kai Kuan found out Tang Yingxin bought the first Dao stone, but hadn't yet had time to check on the second Dao stone. Divine Feather Commercial Tower operates very carefully, with a powerful backing. Kai Kuan won't go against Divine Feather Commercial Tower, but he has his own special perception abilities, and he quietly marked this Dao stone from the start, allowing him to find Tang Yingxin. As for the second one, given time, he will surely discover it. Tang Yingxin gritted his teeth and said, I know who bought the second Dao stone. Since you mentioned owing me a favor, could you agree to a request of mine? Oh? Tell me, Kai Kuan said smoothly. I can tell you who the buyer of the second Dao stone is, but I hope you can help me capture that person. She once killed an elder in my tribe. I need to take her back to apologize to our elder. What Tang Yingxin actually wanted was He Qing's divine phoenix bone. Sure. Who is the buyer? Kai Kuan seemed interested. Young Master Xiang. We've been looking for you. Where have you been? He Yunfang finally breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing Xiang Beifei, thinking Xiang Beifei might have gotten lost wandering around Divine Feather City. Oh, I just found a food street. The stuff there is delicious. Lost track of time. Xiang Beifei and Yu Mong were each munching on a roasted leg. I went to look there earlier and didn't find you, He Qing said. You didn't search carefully. Really? I feel like there's something odd about you. He Qing frowned, suspiciously observing Xiang Beifei, as she remembers Xiang Beifei seemed to be coming from the direction of the Divine Feather Tower's VIP room, not from outside. He Yunfang quickly said, All right, let's not worry about this now. Finding young Master Xiang is good enough. Young Master Xiang is new here. It's normal to enjoy some delicacies for fun. Let's quickly disguise and head back. Avoid unnecessary troubles. He didn't blame Xiang Beifei. After living over 2,000 years, he still thought of the 23-year-old Xiang Beifei as a mischievous young boy sneaking out from home, with a mindset akin to a 7 or 8-year-old. A child getting distracted by delicious food is perfectly normal. He Qing said no more. Young Master Xiang, it's not convenient for us to take you sightseeing in Divine Feather City now. We'll take you next time if there's a chance. Explain everything on the way. All right. Xiang Beifei nodded. He had just conveniently bought 2 items from the early stage of immortality without feeling distressed since he wasn't using his own breath soil. These breath soils were what He Yunfang had sold everything to acquire. He Yunfang waved his hand and used the special techniques of the crane race to hide Xiang Beifei, which gave him some distinctive E-tribe features. The 3 of them swiftly left the Divine Feather commercial tower and quietly departed through another secret path. They merged into the streets and deliberately moved along the maze-like alleys, heading further away from the Divine Feather Tower. Throughout the journey, He Yunfang was cautiously observing his surroundings to ensure no one was following them. Only after confirming their safety did they leap into the void when no one was watching. Looks like no one is following us. When Divine Feather City had vanished from sight and they had flown for nearly an hour, He Yunfang finally relaxed a bit. A cheerful expression appeared on his face as he said, "Young Master Xiang, we were fortunate today to finally acquire a Dao Stone." "Oh, really?" Xiang Beifei cooperatively asked. "Of course. We paid a hefty price for this second Dao Stone. It's not an exaggeration to say it's drained our resources completely." Recalling the nearly 300 feet of soil, He Yunfang still felt a bit of heartache. After all, it's close to 300 feet of land. But thinking about the profound Dao embryos contained within this Dao stone that could elevate their perception of the heavenly Dao, he believed those 300 feet of soil were well spent. "Today, we originally gathered 397 feet of soil. At first, we planned to borrow 2 feet from you, but later the seller was kind-hearted and waived the remaining 3 feet. I really wish I could know who that seller was so we could repay those 3 feet of soil one day if the opportunity arises." He Yunfang remained grateful to the mysterious, unseen vendor, regrettably concealed from sight. "That's really nice," Xiang Beifei laughed. "We didn't expect the Dao Stone to have just one word. This Dao Stone has the word, unrestrained. Young Master Xiang, what do you think of this Dao Stone?" He Yunfang handed the Dao Stone to Xiang Beifei for inspection. He trusted Xiang Beifei enough not to treat him as an outsider. "What a treasure! Look at the robust stroke, deep as if carved, executed in one breath. The person who could write such a word must be a strikingly unique individual." Xiang Beifei spared no praise. Raising his thumb in approval of the Dao Stone, he had written with the word, unrestrained. Since he was acting, he might as well play it convincingly. Praising himself wasn't anything to be embarrassed about. His skin could be thick. "Haha! Young Master Xiang really loves humor. I don't know if the senior is striking or not, but I can certainly say he's a broad-minded individual. Only someone who transcends conventional thinking and pursues an unbounded heavenly Tao could write such an unrestrained sentiment." Yunfang laughed. "Indeed, it looks quite broad-minded." Xiang Beifei earnestly nodded. He Qing had been gazing at the word unrestrained. In Divine Feather City, she never got a close look. Now that it was safe, she finally had time to ponder. At this moment, the word unrestrained appeared to hold a sense of wild and unfettered profundity in her eyes. In her view, the senior master who could write such sentiment must be an extraordinary figure. "I really wish I could know who this esteemed figure is. If I could meet him briefly, even hearing a few words from him, I might gain significant insight into my own Tao practice." He Qing couldn't help but say. "You talk to me and haven't gained anything," Xiang Beifei murmured. He Qing glared at Xiang Beifei and said, "Are you the same? The person is a senior in the Inquiry Tao realm. Any random stroke contains Tao embryos, valued at 300 feet of soil, chased by thousands, and you. What's wrong with me?" Xiang Beifei spread his hands. He Qing sized up Xiang Beifei and said, "You're just a kid who only knows how to eat. When we needed to borrow soil from you, you disappeared to buy food. Forget it, I won't argue with you. You probably wouldn't understand even if I explained." She held the Dao Stone, gently caressing the word, unrestrained, and continued, "Anyway, we've bought this Dao Stone. When we return, I'll teach you how to comprehend the sentiment of the unrestrained word, and then you'll realize the vast difference between you and the original owner of the Dao Stone, and why the senior master is called as such." "Oh!" Xiang Beifei laughed softly. But at that moment, He suddenly perceived something and looked up ahead, then slightly furrowed his brow. What's wrong? He Qing noticed Xiang Beifei's unusual expression and asked. We have guests, Xiang Beifei said with a slight pout. What? He Yunfang and He Qing's hearts jolted, becoming instantly vigilant. Bang! As soon as their voices fell, a terrifying phantom suddenly appeared in front of them in the void. A powerful surge of spiritual power crashed over them like a tide, slamming down on their path forward. Boom! 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 The violent aura instantly blocked their path. Even the breath soil used for flight almost shattered. Who goes there? He Yunfang and his daughter He Qing were both startled, quickly extending their spiritual power to stabilize their form, while feeling a hint of foreboding. They had been very cautious since leaving Divine Feather City, constantly monitoring to see if anyone was following. They thought they were safe now, but unexpectedly, an uninvited guest appeared halfway along. Why so rushed, Taoists? An effeminate voice echoed from the void ahead. In the empty void, the light seemed to warp before a shadow slowly emerged from it. It was a man with very effeminate features, purple hair floating behind him in a breeze-less motion, skin white as a ghost, with red eyeshadow at the corners, making him extremely sinister. Kai Kuan. He Qing immediately recognized the young man and was greatly surprised. She possessed information about many talents on the Earth ranking, as they were her future competitors, and she kept the data updated in real time. Thus, upon meeting him, she identified this infamous Earth ranking genius. Kai Kuan, the genius dubbed invincible in the mid-stage of immortality. He Yunfang's complexion also paled considerably. Due to his daughter's involvement with the Earth-ranking geniuses, he was quite invested in them. After confirming the appearance of the person before them, he felt waves of shock internally. This genius, ranked 98th on the Earth ranking, was incredibly renowned. 60 years ago, he debuted by defeating a late-stage immortality expert, Lu Ji, with mid-stage immortality strength. 60 years passed, and Lu Ji had countless opportunities for a challenge, but still couldn't reclaim his ranking, remaining below Kai Kuan. For a time, Kai Kuan gained immense fame, being known as the invincible mid-stage immortality. He Yunfang never thought the opponent would appear here to block their route. His expression fluctuated, but after stabilizing, he cautiously cupped his hands and said, Taoist Kai, we're merely passing through. If we've disturbed you, please find it in your heart to forgive us and we'll leave immediately. Kai Kuan slightly furrowed his brow, feeling strange, since he only perceived 2 people earlier, yet now saw 3, making him curious, and his eyes swept involuntarily over Xiang Beifei behind He Yunfang. However, these minor discrepancies didn't concern him much. To him, the crane race was minor, and whether there was an extra person or not made no difference. There's no need to hurry, Taoist He. I specifically waited on this road for you today, Kai Kuan said with a mischievous grin. Wait for us. He Yunfang vaguely understood the opponent's intention, calling out a bad feeling inwardly. I heard you obtained the 2nd Dao Stone at Divine Feather Commercial Tower today. I'm quite interested in this Dao Stone and wish to purchase it from you. If the Taoists find it agreeable, Kai Kuan replied. He Yunfang and He Qing exchanged a glance, feeling their hearts sink. How did this guy know they acquired the 2nd Dao Stone? Was it leaked by Divine Feather Commercial Tower? It supposedly shouldn't happen, as Divine Feather Commercial Tower wouldn't ruin its reputation. But how did their disguise fail, and the opponent still knew they were from the crane race? He Yunfang composed himself and said, Taoist Kai might be mistaken. We know nothing of any Dao Stone. You might be searching for the wrong people. Oh? You don't know? Kai Kuan sneered, meaningfully saying, but someone mentioned it was your crane race who took the 2nd Dao Stone. That person must be lying. Our crane race doesn't. He Yunfang. We all know the truth. Why deny it? Just then, another shadow appeared in the void, the voice extremely cold yet very familiar. He Yunfang and his daughter looked intently and saw it was Tang Yingxin. It's you. He Qing's brows furrowed deeply. Yes, it is me. Tang Ingson sneered coldly, showing undisguised killing intent when he saw He Qing. This time, in Divine Feather City, not only did he fail to defeat He Qing, but he was vanquished by her, becoming the subject of everyone's ridicule. Let alone being fleeced by Kai Kuan, buying a Dao stone at a high price and then losing it cheaply, he couldn't even resist. So, he relayed the news about the crane race buying the second Dao stone to Kai Kuan. Anyway, if I can't have it, neither can you, Tang Ingson thought bitterly. Taoist Kai, you must have been fooled by someone. Tang Ingson lost to my daughter. Hence he resents us and deliberately misled you. As for the Dao stone, we don't have any, He Yunfang said solemnly. Taoist he, a wise man, conforms to circumstances. Right now, I'm willing to peacefully negotiate with you, so best not to anger me. I'm well aware the Dao stone is with you. How about this? Kai Kuan lazily opened his arms, stretched and said slowly, I'll offer 50 zhang of earth to buy the Dao stone from you, and we'll still be friends when we meet in the future. Consider it a favor owed to your crane race. 50 zhang of earth. He Yunfang and his daughter doubted if they heard correctly. They spent 300 zhang of earth for the second Dao stone, and now Kai Kuan wants to buy it for 50. They were furious upon hearing Kai Kuan dare to offer such a low price. This was blatant robbery. Coercion. How could this person have such thick skin? He Qing said coldly, regardless of whether the Dao stone is with us. I remember the transaction price for a Dao stone at the Divine Feather Commercial Tower is 300 zhang. Taoist Kai, spending 50 zhang of earth to buy a Dao stone. Isn't that a bit of a daydream? Ha ha ha. You bought it for 300 zhang, I spend 50 zhang, and the remaining 250 zhang count as a favor. Kai Kuan lazily fiddled with his long hair and asked with a meaningful look, Do you all think that the favor of Kai Kuan is not worth this price? Your favor is worth 250. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but mumble on the side. His voice wasn't loud, but it reached Kai Kuan's ear clearly. Kai Kuan squinted his eyes, and no one had ever dared to be so rude to him. This had already stirred his intent to kill. What kind of thing are you to dare speak in front of me? Kai Kuan's gaze flashed with a sharp aura, carrying a menacing murderous intent, transforming into a substantial beam that quickly rushed towards Xiang Beifei. Be careful. He Qing immediately stood in front of Xiang Beifei, preparing to block the attack for him. However, the attack was silently dissolved with just a gentle touch from He Qing. What's going on? He Qing was slightly stunned, feeling a bit strange. Logically, Kai Kuan's attack shouldn't be easily blocked. Where did it go wrong? Yet she had no time to think more and instead looked towards the absent-minded Xiang Beifei, who seemed naive and unaware of the seriousness of the situation. Don't speak recklessly. This person's strength is very powerful. We can't beat him. He Qing whispered a warning to Xiang Beifei and also pulled her father behind her, protecting the two. Kai Kuan was said to be invincible in the mid-eternal life phase, ranking 98th on the Earth ranking. He Qing herself was also in mid-eternal life phase, but even within the same phase the gap was significant, and she had no confidence at all. But right now she couldn't retreat. Her strength was higher than her father's and this human child, so naturally, she had to stand at the front. Tell me, will you choose to sell the Dao stone to me? Or shall I capture you and then sell it to myself? The aura around Kai Kuan intensified, and behind him, a faint immense Kuan shadow emerged, engulfing the sky with overwhelming pressure, intimidating He Qing and them. If you choose the second option, the price will have to be discounted. Kai Kuan's sinister laughter reverberated around He Yunfang and his daughter, striking directly at their souls, making them shudder uncontrollably. Such a powerful Kuan race person. Do we have no choice but to give it? He Yunfang's heart was unwilling, unable to remain calm. The Kuan race is a very special and advanced race that their crane race could not afford to provoke. Though they obtained the Dao stone, they were now in a dilemma. If they didn't give it, they might not leave alive today. Xiao Qing. He Yunfang hesitated, looking at his daughter, wanting to ask her opinion. We can't give it. He Qing resolutely said, Father, even if we agree, do you think they would spare us? Her gaze focused on Tang Yingxin. If Tang Yingxin appeared with Kai Kuan, they certainly must have made some deal. Without much thought, it was clear that Tang Yingxin coveted the divine phoenix bone obtained by their crane race. Even if they handed over the Dao Stone, Kai Kuan would not spare them. He Yunfang realized this too, gritting his teeth. Then what do we do? He is claimed to be invincible in the mid-eternal life phase. It's too challenging for us to deal with him. We must fight. Father, you and Xiang Beifei take the Dao Stone and leave first. I'll buy you some time. He Qing said calmly. No way. We'll leave together. He Yunfang hurriedly rejected this proposal. As a father, how could he leave his daughter behind to fend for herself? Father, now is not the time for emotional decisions. You should understand, either two of us leave or none of us do. He Qing shouted. Buzz. An immortal crane shadow erupted from He Qing, and a powerful aura instantly emanated, pushing He Yunfang and Xiang Beifei away, sending them flying 1,000 zhong in an instant. Sure, here is the translation. HTML. Ah, seriously. Xiang Beifei stabilized his stance from afar. He had been observing Kai Kuan's system interface just moments before, but before he could speak, He Qing had already pushed him aside without a second thought. But his gaze remained fixed on Kai Kuan. In his eyes, the Dao embryo Dharma aspect behind Kai Kuan had already condensed into a system interface. Dao Executor, Kai Kuan, Dao Embryo, Kuan Dao, Dao Phase, Mid-Stage Immortality, Dao Embryo Introduction, a combination of Fish Dao and Rock Dao, capable of appearing in two different forms, able to counter various avian clans and fish clans. Kuan race, this race is truly peculiar. Suddenly inspired, he wanted to see what was so formidable about this so-called Kuan race. He Qing's action had already made her stance clear. She would never compromise, because if she did compromise, the outcome wouldn't be any better. It seems you've chosen the hard way over the easy way. Of course, your choice is correct. I wasn't planning on letting you leave alive in the first place. Ha ha ha. Kai Kuan lazily lifted his eyelids, looking at the crane Dao Dharma aspect glowing behind He Qing, a sneer appearing on his lips. Boom! The terrifying Kuan shadow surged forth once again, looking like a massive flying fish. This fish was rolling, surpassing He Qing's Dao embryo Dharma aspect in both momentum and form. Crack! Two powerful and terrifying auras collided with a bang. The momentum He Qing had gathered shattered instantly, like snow melting away, without even a bit of resistance. Both were at the mid-stage immortality, yet the heavenly Dao Dharma aspect of the Kuan race was vastly superior to the crane Dao, the difference like that between heaven and earth. He Qing took a deep breath, turned around, and the divine phoenix bones surged forth, transforming into a beam of 7-colored light falling upon her right arm. Screech! A crisp phoenix cry shot straight into the sky. He Qing's immortal crane Dharma aspect was augmented by the divine phoenix bone, and the once pure white right wing had its feathers lengthened, constantly flashing with a kaleidoscope of lights, quickly coalescing into a magnificent phoenix's long wing. With the embodiment of the divine phoenix bone, He Qing's aura also kept climbing, charging at Kai Kuan once more. So, this is the inheritance of the divine phoenix? How interesting. Seeing the colorful phoenix wing on He Qing, Kai Kuan also felt it was extremely mysterious. His cultivation of the Kuan Dao involved two forms, a large fish and a rock. The rock was ranked below the phoenix, and if he could obtain the divine phoenix bone in his rock form, he might also be able to unleash the power of the phoenix. With this thought, a glint of greed appeared in Kai Kuan's eyes. I want that too. His eyes turned extremely fiery, and he couldn't help but lick his lips with his crimson tongue, then waved his hands once more. The Kuan shadow Dharma aspect stretched against the wind, extending thousands of miles, vast and terrifying. Looking out, it seemed as if the whole void was enveloped by this bizarre flying fish, and the aura became exceedingly oppressive. Compared to the imposing Kuan shadow, He Qing's heavenly Dao Dharma aspect appeared very small. Whoosh! The The Kuan Shadow Dharma aspect swung its gigantic long wing, slapping down toward He Qing. The coverage of this strike was exceedingly vast, giving He Qing absolutely no chance to dodge. Not only that, but this strike also encompassed He Yunfang and Xiang Beifei. Not good. He Qing exclaimed softly as her phoenix right wing suddenly swung toward He Yunfang and Xiang Beifei's direction. In an instant, the overwhelming spiritual power transformed into seven-colored light, with all colors being drawn together, turning into a fierce wind that swirled around them, pushing them rapidly out of the Kuan Shadow's range. Yet she couldn't dodge in time herself, as the violent aura instantly struck her. Bang! He Qing was sent flying 10,000 feet away. Her face turned pale, and the colorful wings on her immortal crane Dharma aspect dimmed as if they had lost their power, becoming dull in an instant. She still couldn't fully activate the power of the divine phoenix bone, unable to perfectly merge her bloodline with the divine phoenix bone. Shao Qing. He Yunfang saw his daughter in a disadvantageous position and anxiously called out, trying to rush forward to help her. He Yunfang, take care of yourself first. Tang Yingxin's sinister smile transmitted through the air, blocking both him and Xiang Beifei's path instantly. He Yunfang saw Tang Yingxin blocking his way, and his heart sank. His talent was not as good as his daughter's. Currently, his cultivation was only at the early stage of immortality, and facing Tang Yingxin in the mid-stage would be extremely difficult. He did not possess the divine phoenix bone, only the crane Dao embodiment, whereas Tang Yingxin was part of the flying bird Dao, which outstripped him in the Dao embryo, but he could not retreat. He immediately waved his hand, and streaks of white light shot out from his body, transforming into blades that whizzed through the void, aiming towards Tang Yingxin. The divine phoenix bone is with your daughter. What makes you think you can resist me? Tang Yingxin mockingly gazed at He Yunfang. Last time he was caught off guard by He Qing, and the flying bird Dao technique had not suppressed the crane Dao. He attributed the failure to the divine phoenix bone. But now, since the divine phoenix bone was with He Qing, he believed his flying bird Dao technique could thoroughly suppress the already weaker He Yunfang. Tang Yingxin cruelly sneered, unleashing the flying bird Dao technique to envelop the entire void. As He Yunfang saw the invisible wave sweeping toward him, his expression changed dramatically, and his heart tightened. Young Master Xiang, quickly take the Dao stone and leave. I will cover for you. He Yunfang turned and immediately thrust the Dao stone into Xiang Beifei's hands. Xiang Beifei hesitated slightly and said, You should know that you can't defeat Tang Yingxin alone, right? No matter what, I can't leave my daughter and run away alone. Now, whoever can escape must try to. You are young and need to survive. I have only one request. If you can escape alive, please take the Dao stone back to the crane race and let the elders of our crane tribe study it. He Yunfang glanced at his daughter, who was being pushed back step by Kai Kuan, then turned to look at the overwhelmingly powerful Tang Yingxin. He was aware that escaping safely today was nigh impossible, and he had only one choice. He would fight with his life to hold back Tang Yingxin, allowing Xiang Beifei to escape. As long as Xiang Beifei could take the Dao stone back to the crane tribe and let the other elders comprehend it, both his and his daughter's sacrifices would be worthwhile. The terrifying wave of spiritual power in the void swept down instantly. Tang Yingxin's strength far surpassed his expectations, and He Yunfang, with a resolute determination to die, was ready to hold off Tang Yingxin. The spiritual power within him also began to burn, emitting wisps of flames. Bang! The burning spiritual power within He Yunfang surged skyward, forcibly elevating his aura to another level, blocking Tang Yingxin's attack in an instant. Burning your Dao embryo, you really have the courage. Tang Yingxin sneered. Burning one's own Dao embryo source could greatly elevate one's power to a new realm. But the consequence of such action meant that even if one won the battle, they would almost certainly die. Even if I die today, I won't let you have it easy. He Yunfang roared, as the source within him continued to burn, nearly reaching a critical point. At this moment, a hand landed on He Yunfang's shoulder. All right, no need for such trouble. Xiang Beifei said. Young Master Xiang, why aren't you leaving? He Yunfang urged anxiously, but quickly, his expression turned into surprise, because the Tao embryo source he was about to burn was silently suppressed by a strange power and returned to his body. Young Master Xiang Yu? He Yunfang looked at Xiang Beifei in shock. This little partridge, I can handle it myself. Xiang Beifei stretched, then rubbed his knuckles, producing loud cracking sounds. Tang Yingxin looked down at them, infuriated that a mere junior of the crane race dared to call his exalted peacock Tao embodiment a little partridge, his blood boiling with rage. You brat, you dare insult me like this? I will tear you to pieces. Bang! Tang Yingxin's figure transformed into a magnificent peacock, covering half the sky with its dazzling colors. The enormous pressure was almost suffocating. Though his wounds were not fully healed, his power was still at the mid-stage of immortality, and this strike was no joke. The peacock Tao embodiment in the void exuded a divine might, as if it was about to tear apart the void. Young Master Xiang, be careful, you're no match for him, He Yunfang urged anxiously. However, Xiang Beifei simply raised his hand, gazing at the dignified and radiant peacock Tao embodiment, then gently clenched his fist. Buzz! The peacock Tao embodiment, which was originally swooping down from the sky, suddenly froze midair, as if its throat had been choked by something, suspended there, unable to advance a single step. Ugh! How? The peacock Tao embodiment was connected to Tang Yingxin's body. When the peacock was choked, it was as if he was also caught. Tang Yingxin's eyes revealed an incredulous look. As a master in the mid-stage of immortality, how could he, facing such a humble practitioner whose feathers had not even fallen off, have no chance to retaliate? No, impossible! He roared. His entire spiritual power began to concentrate, growing ever stronger. In the sky, the noble peacock Great Bright King flapped its wings, trying to break free from the invisible giant hand. However, no matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free. The once majestic peacock Dharma form now looked like a furious and frightened rooster, flapping wildly and in great distress. Swish! Tang Yingxin roared, and the peacock's true form immediately turned into a fierce black-striped eagle. Yet, this black-striped eagle was still caught by an invisible giant hand, hanging in the air like a grass chicken. Swish! The eagle Dharma form changed again, its body rapidly shrinking into a colorful hummingbird smaller than a finger, trying to escape with its tiny advantage. However, despite this, the colorful hummingbird still couldn't break free. Swish! As Tang Yingxin kept changing into various forms, from a colorful hummingbird to a four-winged iron vulture, to an armored horned eagle, to an iron-tailed rooster, the deity of the flying bird Tao realized that it could transform into countless types of birds. But Tang Yingxin quickly discovered in horror that no matter how he changed the godly Dharma form, he still couldn't break free from the invisible giant hand. In the end, he could only revert back to the peacock Dharma form, which was already his most powerful form. A grass chicken is still a grass chicken. No matter how it changes, it cannot become a phoenix. Xiang Beifei shook his head slightly. Tang Yingxin watched Xiang Beifei in horror, squeezing out a few words with difficulty. You? Who are you really? Crack. But before Tang Yingxin could finish speaking, Xiang Beifei had already clasped his hand abruptly and snapped the neck of the peacock Dharma form. There's no need for you to know. Xiang Beifei waved his hand, and the godly Dharma form in midair began to burn with white flames, exploding and burning, turning Tang Yingxin directly into a spiritual power crystal. Dead. He Yunfang stood behind Xiang Beifei, eyes wide open in shock. Tang Yingxin was actually killed by Xiang Beifei? How is this possible? You have to know that Tang Yingxin's real strength is in the mid-stage of immortality. He is also a genius on the Earth ranking. Even though he has now dropped to rank 199, he once had the strength of rank 150. Yet such a heavens-favored son recognized by the Tao Palace was picked up like a chick and killed in front of Xiang Beifei? He Yunfang was completely stunned. This little human guy, Isn't he only 23 years old? He just entered the early stage of immortality, sneaking into the edge-corner airspace, not knowing anything. How did he manage to kill the well-known Tang Yingxin? How was this done? He looked in horror at Xiang Beifei, who was scavenging for spoils of war. This person, when dealing with Tang Yingxin, didn't even seem to use his full strength. Did he preserve his strength? Young Master Xiang, how did you kill Tang Yingxin? Took He Yunfang a long time to finally let out these words in shock. Oh, I just reached out and twisted his neck. Xiang Beifei shrugged indifferently, gesturing casually. He Yunfang just twisted his neck like that? That's a master who could communicate with the heavenly Tao. How could he die such a farcical death? There's still someone over there unresolved, Xiang Beifei reminded. Right, Shaoqing? He Yunfang suddenly realized. Bang! Meanwhile, a violent explosion erupted in the distance again. Rolling waves of air pushed He Yunfang out of the void, and Xiang Beifei, with a wave of his hand, cloaked He Yunfang with spiritual power, stabilizing him. Shaoqing! He Yunfang anxiously turned around, looking toward the battle situation over there. Whoosh! He Qing's figure retreated, like a kite with a broken string. Even though she had the strong support of the divine phoenix bone, she was utterly unable to cope with Kai Kuin's powerful attack. Splash! A trace of blood oozed from the corner of He Qing's mouth. Shaoqing, are you okay? He Yunfang called out. Dad? Why haven't you left yet? He Qing, hearing her father's voice, became even more anxious. She had planned to hold off Kai Kuin herself to buy them time to escape, but now she had almost exhausted her spiritual power and found that they were both still here. This made her even more anxious. Haha, leave? No one will leave today. Kai Kuin's voice drifted over like a ghost, as the shadow of Kuin covered the sky and blocked out the sun, sealing off this void with the fierce power of the heavenly Tao. He Qing gritted her teeth, and could only retreat to He Yunfang and Xiang Beifei's side. We have nowhere to retreat to now. She appeared to be treading with weak steps, having exhausted all her spiritual power using the power of the divine phoenix bone. If you had listened to me and absorbed the phoenix blood essence from the divine phoenix bone earlier, there would have been a chance to defeat him, Xiang Beifei said calmly. He Qing and He Yunfang were both stunned. What are you talking about? He Qing asked. No matter how powerful the Kuin is, it's just a little fish that can be roasted with a bamboo skewer. Only its skin is tougher. That's all. It's not at the same level as the divine phoenix bloodline. Xiang Beifei said nonchalantly. He's more powerful than you think. He Qing was somewhat exasperated, battling Kai Kuin on one side, while Xiang Beifei seemed to be making light remarks, not realizing how formidable Kai Kuin, ranked 98th on the Earth ranking, truly was. Whatever. Xiang Beifei looked at Kai Kuin's system interface. In Kai Kuin's system interface, there was a very enlightening message. You have comprehended the Tao intent on the Tao stone, furthering your understanding of Kuin Tao. Tao progress plus 245,184. Comprehending my Tao stone, does it also increase your Tao progress? Deepen your understanding of Kuin Tao? Xiang Beifei nodded thoughtfully.